Kill one person in 10 steps, leave no trace for 1,000 miles. The evil demon leader broke through the barrier of time and space and became a descendant of Chinese medicine. An era of declining national medicine and a lack of connection between youth and yellow. Medical ethics are declining, martial arts are disappearing, human nature is sinking under the surface of the world of singing and dancing. There is another unpredictable and mysterious world. A master can cure diseases, while a master can save people's hearts. Keywords of the novel. The Yi Wu Jiang no pop-ups, the Yi Wu Jiang TXT complete collection download, the Yi Wu Jiang latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. 5 Poison Sect Leader. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. 5 Poison Sect Leader. At dusk in early summer, in East China, lightning, thunder and rainstorm poured in. Su Chunliang, the leader of the 5 Poisons cult, walked barefoot on the rough and hard asphalt road. He didn't know what had happened. He was currently fighting against the 9 righteous sects at the top of Kunlun Mountain and was about to unleash his ultimate move to kill all directions. Suddenly, the sky was shattered with lightning, and 5 thunderbolts hit the ceiling, leaving his mind blank. After waking up, everything around him changed. There are no towering mountains, no 9 major sects, no swords and shadows, and number 100,000 followers who have sacrificed their lives to follow. Looking up, brilliant lights, as if immersed in a galaxy of stars. Iron-armored tanks of different shapes come and go. A series of surprised, mocking, or fearful gazes were cast at him. The idea of crossing the tribulation had just emerged, followed by a flood of complex thoughts flooding into his mind. Su Tsong, with the courtesy name Chunliang, is 21 years old. He is in his 3rd year of high school and has been repeating his studies. His parents divorced and he grew up with his grandfather. He has an introverted personality, is sensitive and cowardly, and is pessimistic about the world. This is my 3rd time failing. My parents don't like to see me. My classmates look down on me. Even I hate myself. The whole world despises me and despises me. What's the point of living for me? Su Chunliang was surprised by the despair and pessimism in his mind, which did not belong to him. After 10 years of not dying, I will come back with determination. Can withstand blows and loneliness, this is the most basic self-cultivation of an evil demon. Without indomitable will and courage, how can Su Chunliang subdue the rebellious 5 Poisons cult members? Let's talk more about how Xiong dominates the world. My parents have given birth to me, which is already a great kindness. What are you asking for again? My classmates look down on me. I also look down on you. There are people in the world who dare to slander, bully, insult, laugh at, underestimate, belittle, hate, and deceive me, and I will kill them. Abuse it. My young man aspires to roam the rivers and lakes in this life, not seeking immortality, but only seeking pleasure and a magnificent life. Heaven does not give birth to me, Su Chunliang. The world will last forever like a long night. With this in mind, Su Chunliang's heart was filled with boundless passion. Squeak. The tires rubbed against the ground and made a piercing noise. A black BMW X5 suddenly stopped at a distance of half a meter from Su Chunliang. The driver held a phone in his left hand, a steering wheel in his right hand, and a cigarette in his mouth, staring fiercely at the tall, thin, and weak young man in the center of the road. Under the projection of the car lights, Su Chunliang seemed to be standing at the center of the stage, standing 1.80 meters tall, with a pale complexion. Compared to his peers who were generally overnourished, he was too thin and weak. The 2 glaring bright lights made him feel a bit dizzy, and his eyes were covered in white flowers, shrouded in a layer of mist. Su Chunliang finally realized that there was a novel thing hanging on his nose bridge. Glasses. Although he had never seen this object before, he effortlessly remembered its name, and the constantly emerging new consciousness quickly enriched his understanding of the world around him. Taking off my glasses, the world in front of me suddenly became clear. The rain grew heavier, and raindrops the size of soybeans exploded like beans hitting his bony and fair chest. Su Chunliang is still immersed in the shock brought to him by this new world, and even ignores the iron-armored tank that is just around the corner. Beep. BB. The driver in the car couldn't hold back his anger and honked the horn, urging the young man in front of him, who was only wearing a pair of shorts, to quickly make way. Su Chunliang was startled by the sound of the horn and looked up at the driver inside the car. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. The BMW driver had intended to scold him, but when he was met with his intimidating gaze, his body suddenly felt like falling into an ice cave, and he couldn't help but shiver. He was about to swallow the profanity he had spoken. Su Chunliang turned around and walked towards the traffic flow. It was peak hours after work, and cars were coming and going on the road. The car owners saw a young man wearing only shorts swaggering against the fast lane, and they all chose to turn and avoid it. The sudden situation caused chaos on the road, sudden lane changes, emergency braking, and honking of the horn. Su Chunliang turned a blind eye and walked alone on the main road. When the on-duty police officer noticed this situation, Su Chunliang had already walked to the Heping Bridge, leaning against the railing. His heart was filled with ups and downs, and his memory was like a surging river. He realized that he had not encountered a lightning disaster, but had come to a brand new world where he was no longer the leader of the Five Poisons cult, Su Chunliang, but just a repeat student named Su Tsong who had failed 3 times. Upon hearing the news, Police Officer Lu Qi stopped at a distance of about 20 meters from the incident site. Anyone who saw this scene in front of them first thought of someone wanting to jump into the river. Since the Peace Bridge was completed and opened to traffic 10 years ago, almost every year there have been pessimistic and desperate pessimists jumping down from here. Lu Qi recognized Su Chunliang at the first moment. They were alumni of the 3rd middle school in the city. Lu Qi was 3 years old, and although Su Chunliang was not considered a prominent figure in the school, his grandfather, Su Changxing, was a well-known figure in Dongzhou. He was an experienced traditional Chinese medicine practitioner with superb medical skills, and the time-honored Chinese medicine clinic on Shundi Road, the Huichuntang, was the ancestral hall of his family. Lu Qi dared not act rashly. He instructed his partner to disperse the onlookers to avoid further stimulating the suicide victims. He first sought support from the headquarters and contacted Mr. Su to rush to the scene as soon as possible. The onlookers took out their phones to shoot, and the progress of modern technology has continuously lowered the threshold for news professionals. Everyone is watching the excitement, but their thoughts are different. Some kind-hearted people advise Su Chunliang to come back, some point and comment, and some are afraid that the world will not be chaotic. You're jumping, I've been watching in such heavy rain for a long time. Why don't you jump? Lu Qi glared angrily at the instigator, who was stunned by the righteous gaze. Su Chunliang took a deep breath. Just now, he tried to use internal breathing, but found that the meridians were empty and the once proud and powerful internal power had disappeared out of thin air. Without divine skills and 100,000 followers, he became completely isolated in this unfamiliar world. It would be unimaginable if an enemy attacked. Su Kang. The call interrupted his contemplation. Su Chunliang followed the sound and saw Lu Qi walking towards him with a straight uniform. Although he had never seen him before, when Lu Qi appeared, he naturally remembered everything related to him. He was a senior at the same school who played basketball exceptionally well and had a high athletic talent. Lu Qi smiled at Su Chunliang and said, "Why? You don't know me anymore. I graduated from number 3 middle school, and we even played basketball together." Su Chunliang calmly looked at Lu Qi, with a calm expression on his face. Lu Qi understood his expression as despair towards life. He stopped about 3 meters away from Su Chunliang and leaned against the guardrail to take a look under the bridge. The water flow is fast enough, and even the best water quality cannot be used. If it falls, it will be fatal, he said. Su Chunliang looked at Lu Qi with great interest and said, "Do you think I'm going to throw myself into the river?" Lu Qi smiled and shook his head. "You don't know, you're young. Even if you don't think for yourself, you have to think for the elderly, right? Your grandfather is 70 years old this year, isn't he? Is his health okay?" The rain gradually stopped, and Lu Qi took out a box of cigarettes and shook them in front of Su Chunliang, saying, "Do you smoke?" Su Chunliang blinked his eyes. He had never tried before. "Take one." Lu Qi took advantage of the opportunity to smoke and approached him. When the distance was about 1 meter, Lu Qi rushed forward with a hungry tiger. Within such a distance, he had enough confidence to control Su Chunliang. With a flash of white light in front of him, Lu Qiji managed to pounce on the inevitable attack, without even touching the corner of his target's clothes. He fell heavily to the ground due to losing balance. Su Chunliang only moved his steps to the left. Although his internal strength disappeared, his footwork remained the same. He used the 8 transformations of the spirit snake to easily avoid Lu Qi. He was very clear that Lu Qi was trying to save himself, so he did not counterattack. At this moment, the police officers rushed up from all directions upon hearing the news. Su Chunliang's heart was filled with vigilance. Just as he was about to take action, an elderly man with white hair rushed out of the police car. Due to being too anxious, he couldn't stand steadily when getting off the car, and his feet stumbled. The police officers beside him hurriedly helped him up. The old man anxiously shouted, "Pure goodness. Don't do anything foolish." Upon learning the news of his short sighting at the Peace Bridge, Su Changshan rushed over as soon as possible. The old man was in his 70s, and although his body was strong, he was already old and he was already panting all the way. Seeing his precious grandson standing by the bridge wearing only one pair of shorts, the old man's heart was hanging in his throat. Today is the day of the college entrance examination. Su Chunliang once again failed the exam. He scored worse and worse than before, and this time he didn't even pass the undergraduate entrance examination. According to Su Changshan's suggestion, instead of wasting time at a fake university, it is better to learn medical skills with oneself. Now that the country has just introduced the policy of inheriting traditional Chinese medicine teachers, I am already old and indeed need a successor. Although Western medicine has completely dominated in today's era and traditional Chinese medicine has declined, as long as one inherits their own legacy and guards this ancestral clinic, even if they cannot achieve great wealth and prosperity, they can at least ensure a worry-free lifestyle. Su Changshan has mentioned to his grandson more than once, but this kid has no interest in studying medicine. In addition, he is introverted, quiet, and rarely communicates with others. Especially since the 3rd repetition, he has spoken less than 10 sentences to him throughout the year, and the generation gap between the grandfather and grandson is becoming deeper and deeper. Although Su Changshan's medical skill is superb, he can't do anything about his grandson's condition. Heart disease still needs medicine. Acupuncture and moxibustion and stone medicine can only help Su Chunliang strengthen his body and dredge the meridians. "Don't come over." Su Chunliang roared loudly, as if in shock. More than 10 police officers stopped abruptly, and Lu Qi, who had just fallen in the air, got up from the ground with a mournful face, indicating that he was fine and had nothing to do with Su Chunliang. Su Changshan approached and said in a trembling voice, "Chunliang, if you have any major or minor issues, I won't live either. Bones and flesh are intertwined, let alone the fact that this precious grandson was brought up by him from a young age. 18 years ago, his wife passed away, and the two of them relied on each other. If something happened to his grandson, Su Changshan would lose the meaning of living." Su Chunliang looked at the tearful Su Changshan, his memories gradually being awakened in his mind. "Grandpa." "Ah." Su Changshan replied loudly. "Chunliang, Grandpa promised you not to force you to study medicine. You can do whatever you want in the future, and come home with me, okay?" Su Chunliang looked around and saw an increasing number of onlookers, as well as iron-armored chariots flashing red and blue lights roaring towards him. As soon as they arrived, they settled in. Before the 9 great gates were discovered, he decided to leave here before making any plans. So he nodded and said, "Okay." The Huichun Hall located on Shundi Road is a time-honored medical clinic in Dongzhou. According to Su Changshan, this plaque was bestowed by Emperor Yongzheng, and the ancestors of the Su family once served as imperial physicians. However, Old Feng from the wooden factory has another statement about this plaque. The plaque was handmade by his father, and the reason why he remembers it so deeply is that he started reading from the Spring Festival Hall when he wore open-crotch pants. He witnessed the entire process of making the plaque with his own eyes. Anyway, there is no doubt that the history of the Spring Festival Hall is long, and Su Changshan's medical skills are also well known, especially in the treatment of bone injuries. The traditional plaster is extremely effective. After the 1990s, the recognition of Chinese medicine in society plummeted sharply, and the living space continued to shrink. It is an undeniable fact that the west wind dominates the east wind in the medical field. In such an environment, the business of Huichuntang has naturally been affected, with fewer and fewer younger generations coming to visit. In addition, with Su Changshan's advanced age, orthopedic massage requires physical strength, and due to physical limitations, the business in this area has to be reduced. With Su Changshan's fame, there are many who admire his reputation and seek apprenticeship. However, Su Changshan follows a conservative approach in his education, adhering to the principle of passing on from son to daughter. The only one he can hope for is his grandson Su Chunliang. If his grandson refuses to learn, the medical skills of the Su family will only be lost. Su Changshan is also worried about this and afraid that he will not be able to face his ancestors. Su Chunliang has been introverted and reserved since childhood. According to current accounts, he has a very serious social anxiety disorder, and his academic performance is not very outstanding, let alone any outstanding talents. According to school teachers, this kid is not focused, his mind is not focused on studying, he doesn't like socializing, and he doesn't have many friends. If it weren't for Su Chunliang's insistence, Su Changshan wouldn't have allowed him to repeat 3 times. His college entrance examination scores were getting lower and lower each time, and he didn't even pass 400 points this time. Private undergraduate programs were out of reach for him, and he could have chosen to go abroad with his qualifications. However, Su Chunliang refused to go, so Su Changshan had to give up. Su Changshan does not value academic qualifications, as he does not have one himself. However, this does not prevent his medical skills from being recognized. Chinese medicine is vast and profound, and his research is the way of heaven and man. How can Western medicine be compared to it? The 50-100-year history of Chinese medicine has basically been passed down through the method of mentoring and apprenticeship, which is sufficient to prove that this method is in line with the national conditions. Lu Qi drove these 2 gentlemen to the Spring Festival Hall and learned that Su Tsong's ID card was lost on the way. He asked Su Tsong to go to the sub-bureau as soon as possible to apply for it, and also advised him a few words. The college entrance examination score does not represent everything, and he has never taken the college entrance examination. Now, he is holding an iron rice bowl to serve the people. Su Changshan looked at his grandson, who was only wearing a pair of shorts and remained silent. He felt both love and pity in his heart. Su Chunliang was only 3 months old when his parents parted hands. The 2 of them threw their children at him, one flying to America and the other to Europa. Soon after, each had their own small family and children. Before the holidays, no one could remember that there was still this child in China. Su Changshan believes that his grandson's misfortune is largely caused by his parents, and of course, he also has a responsibility. Over the years, he has been busy treating and saving people, neglecting to educate his grandson. Looking back, this child was still very intelligent when he was young. At the age of 5, he already knew the herbs in the store very well. At the age of 6, he could recite the 8 meridians and 362 orifices of the human body. Just after going to school, his temperament suddenly changed. Su Changxing still remembers it clearly. One day, he came back crying after school and asked himself, why didn't he have his parents picking him up and dropping him off? Since then, I have also become silent and less fond of communicating with the outside world. The police car stopped at the entrance of the Spring Festival Hall, and Lu Qi got off the car at the first time to help open the door. Mr. Su walked out trembling, and Lu Qi thoughtfully supported his arm. Su Chunliang, who then left the car, said, "Let me come." He took the initiative to help his grandfather. Lu Qi saw his actions and felt a little relieved. A person who doesn't even care about their own life cannot care about others. Various signs indicate that Su Chunliang has given up the idea of seeking short-term solutions. Su Changxing reminded his grandson, "Be careful not to prick your feet." Even now, Su Chunliang is still barefoot. "Look, how much your grandfather cares about you," Lu Qi smiled at Su Chunliang. Su Changxing was about to tell his grandson to invite Lu Qi to come in and have a cup of tea. Before he could speak, Su Chunliang said, "Brother Lu, you worked really hard just now. If you don't mind, please move to your humble abode and prepare some thin wine for me to have a drink with Brother Lu." Mr. Su is confused. What has stimulated my grandson? I haven't seen him talk to anyone like this before. After all, Lu Qixin is from a family of traditional Chinese medicine. He speaks like classical Chinese. This young man is out of touch with the times. He smiled and said, "Maybe another day. I will still be on duty. You can't park at the door for too long. Hurry in and take care of the old man. Don't let him worry or be afraid again in the future." Su Chunliang thought to himself, truly a righteous person. This person is available for submission. Hugging his fists, Lu Qi didn't say much and helped his grandfather into the Spring Festival Hall. Lu Qi watched them enter the door before driving away. The Spring Festival Hall is a simple 2-story small building, with a clinic downstairs and a place where the two of them live upstairs. There is a middle-aged woman surnamed Lin in the shop who usually looks at the store's cleaning and helps with cooking. As for taking medicine and seeking medical treatment, she doesn't know much about it. The reason why Su Changxing hired her is because she does not understand medical skills. How can her ancestral medical skills be easily explored by others? Su Changxing was worried that his grandson would have another chance, so he followed him back to his room and asked him to take a shower and change clothes. Su Chunliang preserves complete memories of his past life. Compared to this, his consciousness in this life is somewhat fragmented. Su Chunliang quickly draws useful information from these fragments, and never complains or gives up in any environment at any time. Standing naked in front of the bathroom mirror, I realized that my appearance had not changed much from before. It was just that I had become fairer, thinner, and had much shorter hair. In this world, men's hairstyles are mostly like this. The bathroom is small and there is no bathtub in an inch of space. Su Chun was surprised by his conscience, but he quickly discovered useful information from his memory. The lotus-shaped iron object above his head should be, but when he touched it with his hand, the texture was not metal. Be careful when opening the valve, as over 100 water lines pour down. Su Chunliang was taken aback and took a step back, still being splashed with hot water. His reaction time and movement speed significantly decreased. Close the valve and then open it again, and the water line stops opening. The mechanism is extremely clever, and soon it is discovered that the valve can rotate left and right. The left rotation of the water flow becomes hot, and the right rotation becomes cold, which is ingenious. Su Chunliang repeatedly opened and closed, playing for a long time before starting to take a shower, washing away all the rain stains and the blood of his past life. He closed his eyes and enjoyed the warm water washing away. A colorful centipede measuring inches in length quickly swam along the wall behind Su Chunliang, pressing against the ground to reach his heel. As he was about to launch an attack, he grabbed the centipede with one hand, but Su Chunliang caught the bug in time. The centipede struggled and wriggled between his fingers, but dared not attack. Su Chunliang stared at the centipede, his eyes burning with light, opened his big mouth, and swallowed it in one gulp. When Su Chunliang was taking a shower, the old man was always waiting outside, waiting for half an hour. Su Chunliang, who had washed himself clean from head to toe, finally changed into clothes and walked out. Looking at his refreshing grandson, Su Changshan breathed a sigh of relief. The foundation of traditional Chinese medicine is to observe and understand, and decades of medical practice have enabled the old man to develop a pair of keen eyes. After experiencing this upheaval, my precious grandson has become full of vitality and has clearly undergone a transformation. He remains steadfast and resilient, and this setback is a rare experience for him. Perhaps it will help him re-examine the world. At this point, Lin's mother had already prepared dinner and invited the two of them to have dinner. A centipede couldn't even satisfy the starving Su Chunliang. Faced with delicious food, Su Chunliang had already moved his fingers greatly. Despite this, he still didn't forget the way of etiquette. He first served his grandfather a meal, every move, and respected the etiquette. Su Changshan had no appetite and smiled, "I won't eat, just watch you eat." Su Chunliang nodded and went to brew a cup of tea for his grandfather before sitting back at the table and eating. Su Changshan held a teacup and looked at his grandson, who was devouring food with a smile. He felt a little comforted in his heart. He knew it was not a blessing, and Chunliang was clearly sensible. In the past, not only did he serve me a meal, but he didn't even bother to say a word more. Everyone in the world doesn't want their younger generation to excel, but their talents and endowments vary. Sun Tzu is not the material for learning, nor can he be forced to do so. But he doesn't want to inherit his legacy, can't he just stay at home at a young age? Isn't it that he has cut off contact with society, he will only become increasingly isolated in the future. With this in mind, Su Changshan fell into contemplation. Without much thought, he was interrupted by the voice of the visitor. "Is Uncle Su here?" The person who came is Gao Xinhua, the vice president of Changxing Hospital. Recently, he has often visited Huachuntang for the purpose of not seeking medical treatment, as Changxing Hospital is located next to Huachuntang. The hospital's second phase plan includes the shantytown area, including Huachuntang, in the scope of relocation, and other residents have basically agreed. However, the most difficult to persuade is Huachuntang, because Su Changshan is highly respected in this area. As long as he agrees, the issue of land requisition and relocation will naturally be resolved. The hospital has also offered favorable conditions, including cash compensation, opening a traditional Chinese medicine expert clinic for Su Changshan through cooperation within the hospital, or finding a new location to reopen the rejuvenation hall. But the old man accepted his fate and refused to move anything. He even presented a sign of intangible cultural heritage, stating that no one would want the Spring Festival Hall to move unless he died. Because his father and Su Changshan were close friends, Gao Xinhua was still able to speak up. The task of persuading Su Changshan fell on him. For this matter, he ran from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year, and from winter to summer, but Su's attitude still remained unchanged. The reason why Gao Xinhua came today is because he heard about Su Chunliang's unsuccessful attempt to invest in the river, and there are no secrets to keep in the information society. When Su Changshan saw it was him, he immediately put on a stern expression and said, "I've told you so many times that we won't talk about the demolition." Gao Xinhua smiled and said, "Uncle, I'm not here for business, but I'm just coming to see you and Shao Kong." As he spoke, he glanced at Su Chunliang. Su Chunliang is dealing with that bowl of braised pork belly. It's really delicious. I'm so hungry, there's no need to worry about any etiquette. Su Changshan didn't want his grandson to hear their conversation, so he got up and walked outside. Before Gao Xinhua could sit down, he followed him out and hurriedly pulled out a cigarette at the door, respectfully handing it over. Su Changshan took the cigarette, and Gao Xinhua respectfully helped him light it. He only lit one himself, but neither of them spoke and took a few puffs. Gao Xinhua looked at the crowded road and said, "Municipal planning, the road will be built here next year." Su Changshan took a strong puff of his cigarette and gave him a sidelong glance, saying, "Speak up and don't beat around the bush with me. Uncle, let me be frank. We need to build a subway here, and you should know that according to the plan, it will definitely not be completed in 3 to 5 years. The subway doesn't take Huachuntang to pass by. It can affect your business. As long as you start construction, the entrance is a fence. Maybe the road will be closed from the north entrance. What kind of business can withstand such a long period of turmoil?" Dean Gao finished speaking. Su Changshan became impatient and pointed to the road at the entrance, gesturing for Gao Xinhua to finish speaking and leave. Gao Xinhua chuckled and said, "Don't worry, today I swiped Su Tsong on my phone. The college entrance exam results are out. How did you do?" Su Changshan threw half of the cigarette onto the ground and stomped on it with his round-mouthed cloth shoes. His calm and self-righteous gaze made Gao Xinhua tremble from the bottom of his heart. "Why don't you open and pick up any pot? Your daughter, a talented water and wood student, makes you laugh." "Uncle, that's not what I meant. What's your relationship with my dad? I dare not see anyone laughing at you. I came here today to help." "Thank you, there's no need." Although Gao Xinhua encountered a nail, he still smiled and said, "Uncle, we are our own people. I am willing to target you, right?" "Dean Gao, I didn't see it." "Uncle, if others don't know, can you still not know? I am a deputy in charge of logistics, and I can't even rank in the top 5 at Changxing Hospital. I came here today because of Xiao Tsong, and online videos have been flooded. Don't worry, I have no intention of watching your family's jokes. Even if Xiao Tsong fails the college entrance examination, it will be difficult for him to find employment after graduation. The employment situation in the medical industry is very severe now. Let's take our Changxing Hospital as an example. It is said that ordinary undergraduate students who come to apply for jobs do not take the human resources department seriously, and if they want to enter clinical practice after obtaining a master's degree, they also need to have a strong relationship." Su Changshan recognized the meaning behind Gao Xinhua's words and reached out his hand. Gao Xinhua understood the spirit and immediately pulled out a cigarette to hand it over. He respectfully helped him light it again. He is a retired soldier who was able to secure his current position from the hospital's security department thanks to his ability to observe his words and expressions. The hospital gave him a death order to solve the demolition of the revival hall in any way he said within the year. He also tried his best, but all the efforts were in vain. Today, he accidentally saw a video of the police rescuing Su Tsong on his phone. Gao Xinhua was suddenly cheerful, and everyone had their shortcomings, including Su Changshan. From the rhythm of Mr. Su's smoking, Gao Xinhua judged that his emotions had calmed down and gave him half a cigarette to consider before speaking up. "If you propose to let the hospital solve your grandson's employment problem now, I think the hospital will definitely agree." Su Changshan took a puff of smoke and looked up at the still cloudy sky, saying, "You really do whatever it takes. Uncle, I'm all thinking for you. Regardless of whether you agree or not, don't tell anyone about it, otherwise the hospital will think I'm taking risks." The two of them met in gaze, while revealing a smile that could only be understood but not expressed in words. Gao Xinhua felt uneasy in his heart. At present, he did not know the old man's clear attitude. The hospital's second phase expansion plan was imminent, and the dean gave him a death order, putting a lot of pressure on him. Su Changshan turned around and looked inside, finally making up his mind. "The conditions from last time remained unchanged, and we will arrange a formal job for Chunliang." "No problem." After Gao Xinhua finished speaking, he realized that he had agreed too happily. Don't be busy, let's make things clear. I need a formal job, a formal establishment, and like you, I can't have less than 5 insurances and 1 fund. Gao Xinhua frowned and said, Mr. Su really dares to take it. It's okay to say that the 5 insurances and 1 fund are officially established. Su Tsong is just a high school graduate, why don't you become a dean? After looking at the golden signboard of the Revival Hall and then at the outdated ward building not far away, Gao Xinhua immediately weighed the pros and cons. Uncle Su, I will report your request to the hospital leaders as soon as possible. Su Changshan shook his head and said, do you know why I don't like working with you? I hate the office's tardy and tedious style of doing things. Now, I will call. If you don't call, I will call the final say. I will give you half an hour and promise. I will sign the contract tomorrow, and I will move tomorrow. If I don't promise, I will pass on the rejuvenation hall to my grandson. You will never think about it again. For months away from the starting point, on the first day of the new book, I wonder if everyone has forgotten about me. If you still remember, if you happen to see this new book by Octopus in the vast sea of books, please bookmark it, I believe it will not disappoint you. I have been practicing medicine for 30 years and writing for 20 years. Although I have written works on medicine, such as The Official Journey of the Medical Way and The Unification of the Medical World, I have never truly delved into the true story of my industry. Writing a work that reflects the real industry situation has always been my wish. This book, The Great Doctor Without Borders, is a true medical workplace novel that focuses not on practicing medicine. I will decode the real medical industry from a brand new perspective and depict a fascinating and diverse medical world. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Today's Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Today's Awakening. Su Chunliang quickly became familiar with his current living environment and adapted to his new identity. Only by recognizing reality can we live in the present. Although there are things worth remembering and people to cherish in the past time and space, it is not enough to become a reason for them to go back. Even though you are the leader of the 5 Poisons sect and have ranked among the 9 great masters in the world with the cultivation of a great master, you have never possessed the divine ability to break the void and wander in the plane, let alone almost completely lose your martial arts skills now. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I meditated regularly. After this ordeal, I was almost no different from an ordinary person. Practicing can only start from scratch. Fortunately, I have memorized martial arts classics from the past, and I am fortunate to have mastered my mind skills. I believe that with time, I will be able to regain my strength. Even though he is a rare martial arts prodigy in a century, he has been possessed by demons 3 times during his practice of the Tongtian Baodian. If he had not relied on the secret poison scripture of the 5 Poisons sect and used poison to attack evil, he would have been trapped by the inner demons, his meridians would have been cut, and he would have died in an untimely death. Having learned from previous experiences, we dare not act too hastily in this world when repairing. The Tongtian Baodian is a secret collection of supreme divine powers, divided into 3 volumes and 9 levels. After completing cultivation, one can break the void and ascend to the holy realm. Su Chunliang only had time to reach the triple realm of cultivation when he leaked the news. The 9 righteous sects, under the guise of eradicating evil and promoting justice, joined forces to encircle and suppress. Ultimately, it was not because they coveted the martial arts treasure, Tongtian Baodian, in his hands. Both sides engaged in battle at the peak of Kunlun, with blood flowing into a river and countless casualties. If it weren't for the thunder disaster yesterday, I might have already been burned with those righteous experts by now. Su Chunliang slowly exhaled a long breath. Although it was summer, the white breath he exhaled was still clearly visible, half a foot long, and suddenly dissipated in the void. Opening his eyes and seeing the rapidly dissipating white qi in the air, Su Chunliang sighed to himself. He had not even reached the first level of gathering qi without dissipating. With his current cultivation level, he wanted to restore his former divine skills. I don't know what year and month it is. Wearing his clothes, he got up and went to the next study. Overnight, he had completely integrated two different memories, inheriting Su Tsong's entire understanding of the world. The study was tightly covered by curtains. When the curtains were opened, orange morning light shone in, instantly filling the entire room. It is divided into two areas, separated by a bookshelf in the middle. The slightly smaller area to the east belongs to his study area, with various teaching aids placed on the bookshelf. The desk is in a mess, and there are several torn textbooks on the ground, reminding the owner of his irrational behavior due to emotional instability caused by failing the college entrance examination. Most of the area in the west belongs to Grandpa Su Changshan, and most of the bookshelves are traditional Chinese medicine pharmacopoeias, including some traditional Chinese medicine classics. Su Chunliang came to his desk and bent down to pick up the books on the ground. The severely damaged ones were directly thrown into the trash can. There is a mobile phone in the corner, and the screen has already cracked. Fortunately, it does not affect its use. The content of this small square is comprehensive. 3,000 worlds, countless worlds, yesterday's world, Su Chunliang has disappeared, today's world, Su Tsong began to awaken from yesterday. Footsteps could be heard from behind. Su Changshan had developed a habit of getting up early for many years and had already finished his morning exercise in the park. When he returned, he found that his grandson had already woken up, so he came to take a look. The old man stayed up all night tossing and turning. If his grandson had no obsession in his heart, he would not insist on repeating his studies for 3 consecutive years. Given the situation of his family, studying abroad is the most feasible plan. His son Su Zheshuan is also willing to bear all the expenses of going abroad, but this stubborn boy refused. In the depths of Su Changshan's heart, he also couldn't bear to let his grandson leave. If Chunliang went abroad, he would become a truly lonely family. 3 children, each with a successful career, but none of them stayed in Dongzhou, which means they would only come back to visit during holidays. Every time they think about this, the old man will have some selfish thoughts. It would have been better if one of them had insisted on inheriting their family education, but now it's better. There is no one around to discuss things. Don't be fooled by the fact that everyone has graduated from top universities and become elites. His neighbors all praise him for his ability to teach children, but that's just a false name. The stronger the children's abilities, the farther they go. At his age, no one is better off than a virtuous wife and filial son, with many children and grandchildren. Fortunately, with this grandson by his side, what happened yesterday made the old man very scared. In his old age, he couldn't bear the pain of losing his loved ones. Because of this, he gave up his long-term persistence and was willing to use the demolition of the Spring Festival Hall as a condition to exchange his grandson for a job that guaranteed drought and flood. After learning about Su Changshan's demolition conditions, several senior executives in Changxing Hospital immediately held a small meeting and made a decision in less than half an hour. Although there were many people involved in the discussion, the final decision had to be made by Dean Gu Hui. Gu Hui will retire next year. Starting the second phase expansion project of Changxing Hospital before leaving is his greatest wish in his heart. He is a local cadre of Changxing Hospital and has a deep affection for this hospital. Before leaving, he also wants to do something for the hospital to lay a foundation for its future development. The Spring Festival Hall is like a nail wedged in his heart. Although Su Changshan's conditions are somewhat out of line, it is inevitable that some blood will be shed in order to pull out this nail. To make an exception, Changxing Hospital has over 1,000 employees, and there are many idle people. Eating with multiple idle people doesn't have much impact. So Gu Hui pushed aside public opinion and made a decisive decision. Su Changshan has not yet shared this good news with his grandson. In recent years, the deepening generation gap has made him be careful when speaking in front of his grandson, fearing that any inappropriate words may hurt the child's fragile nerves. The status of being a regular employee of a tertiary grade A comprehensive hospital has made countless medical graduates envious. According to Gao Xinhua, even master's graduates cannot even sign a personnel agency, it is just an ordinary employment contract that needs to be signed through a third party. Nowadays, unlike in the past, there is an excess of medical students without a master's degree, and the hospital personnel department will not take you seriously. Su Changshan is certainly aware of his grandson's situation. As a high school graduate, what can he do to go to Changxing Hospital? Even if given formal staffing, we can only do some marginal logistical work. This is not difficult for the old man. The issue of his grandson's job is only one of the conditions for demolition. The hospital has previously proposed to cooperate in opening expert clinics for him in the hospital. As long as he perseveres to the end, it should not be a problem for his grandson to work in traditional Chinese medicine clinics. As long as he is willing to learn, at least 3 years, and at most 5 years, he should have achieved some success in traditional Chinese medicine. Once he learns his 3 cost skills, he can establish a firm foothold in Changxing Hospital. Su Changshan is really worried about his love for his grandson. In fact, there is a better alternative, which is to find a new location and reopen the Spring Festival Hall. However, that won't be able to protect his grandson, and the old man can't rest assured. Su Chunliang called out to his grandfather and continued to tidy up. Soon, he cleaned up the corner of his study, and the teaching aids for the college entrance examination were no longer useful. He planned to sell them later. Su Changshan's kind gaze followed his grandson's every move. In the past, this kid was not so diligent, and indeed, he grew up in setbacks. After Su Chunliang tidied up and refreshed himself, he was called downstairs, where statues of the medical saint Zhang Zhongjing and the medicine king's son Simiao were enshrined. Su Chunliang washed his hands as instructed by the old man and incensed the 2 saints. Chunliang, do you know why Grandpa wants you to burn incense today? Su Chunliang knew that practicing medicine and helping the world all belonged to the Fatigue Gate, and he just worshipped these 2 recognized ancestors of the Fatigue Gate. It is natural for the old man to pay his respects to his ancestors while attending traditional Chinese medicine. Without waiting for his answer, Su Changshan said, Uncle Gao, who came over yesterday, is the director of Changxing Hospital. Coincidentally, the hospital has a vacant position, so he thought of you. As long as you are willing, you can quickly go to the hospital to work. Grandpa, it's not that easy to get into Changxing Hospital, is it? I'm just a high school graduate and I don't have the qualifications to be a doctor. Su Chunliang has realized the importance of a diploma in this world. Entering a hospital does not necessarily mean becoming a doctor. Each hospital has its own division of labor, with a medical department responsible for medical treatment and an administrative department dedicated to supply and operation. For example, leaders and security personnel do not need to seek medical treatment. Do you mean, let me go to the hospital to be a security guard? Su Chunliang's exceptional talent helped him quickly integrate into the world and began to pragmatically evaluate his own situation. In Changxing Hospital, where there were many intellectuals, the most suitable job for him was security. Su Changshan shook his head and said, it's not a security guard. It's officially established, and the hospital has agreed to cooperate with me to open a traditional Chinese medicine clinic. You can work and study by my side, and once you complete your studies and pass the physician's license, you can officially receive medical treatment. Although he knew his grandson would refuse, the old man still had some extravagant expectations. Okay. Su Changshan was stunned. He didn't expect it to go so smoothly this time. His long-cherished wish had finally been realized, and there was someone in the Su family who could continue his medical skills. The old man immediately became excited and said, that's settled. I'll accompany you to the sub-bureau later to apply for a new ID card. Signing a contract should be necessary. Su Chunliang said, Grandpa, you don't need to accompany me. I'll go by myself. Capturing the worried gaze of the old man, he immediately understood his meaning and smiled. "Don't worry, I'm thinking it over. I won't make you worry again in the future. This is a brand new world, with people coming and going, flowing endlessly." Su Chunliang already knew that the various types of vehicles speeding on the road were not armored vehicles, but cars, including sedans, off-road vehicles, trucks, and buses. There are bicycles, electric bikes, and motorcycles with 2 wheels. In addition to birds, there are airplanes flying in the sky, and in the underground, there are mice and subways running. The name on the household registration book is Su Tsong, and Chunliang is also his nickname. Su Chunliang decided to change the name back, as his ID card would have to be reissued anyway. After reviewing the relevant procedures, I went to the registered residence center of the local police station under my jurisdiction and provided relevant information. It is estimated that it will take half a month to come down. The local police station has convenient services, and here we will also handle the procedures for reissuing the ID card. On Su Chunliang's way back, a police car passed by and the window fell down. Police officer Lu Qi was sitting in the passenger seat. Lu Qi greeted him and said, "Su Tsong, where are you going?" Su Chunliang had a good impression of him and stopped to say, "Brother Lu, I just went to apply for a replacement ID card. I changed my name and now my name is Su Chunliang." Lu Qi nodded. As he was on duty, he didn't say much to Su Chunliang. Seeing that the boy was in good mental condition, he felt relieved and said hello before continuing on. Su Chunliang looked at the car with some envy and wondered to himself, "When will I also learn how to operate a car? It is said that this thing travels thousands of miles every day. With it, wouldn't it be possible to freely traverse the world?" After only a few steps, I saw the police car parked on the roadside. 2 police officers hurriedly entered the mobile phone sales hall on the roadside, one of whom was Lu Qi. There were many onlookers outside the mobile phone store, and Su Chunliang, who had just arrived, had a strong curiosity about everything in this world and followed suit. So far, this world has given him a relatively peaceful feeling, with no wars or killings around him, and compared to the past, it can be called a golden age. At the entrance, everyone was discussing one after another. It turned out that a large snake had fallen from the ceiling of the business hall, which frightened the staff and customers inside and fled. When faced with difficulties, the staff sought help from the police, so they immediately chose to report the incident to the police. Lu Qi and his partner Li Zhong entered the business hall to check the situation. Li Zhong was most afraid of snakes and insects, but as a police officer, he couldn't choose to retreat. He whispered, "Shouldn't we hit 119 to catch snakes? How did we find 110? Lu Qi is also afraid of snakes, and on the surface, he is much more confident than Li Zhongzhen. This is the trust of the people in us. Since we have arrived, we should first understand the situation before seeking support. If we cannot deal with it, we can then seek support. There are not many snakes and insects in the Dongzhou area, and incidents of venomous snakes injuring people are even rarer," he said to a uniformed female shop assistant, who is in charge here. "You. Manager you." The female shop assistant was panicked and couldn't speak fluently. "Where are people?" "Inside. Inside." "Fainted. A big snake, 3 or 4 meters long. This. So thick." The female clerk gestured with a bowl opening. The 2 police officers looked at each other, which was too exaggerated. "I believe you're a ghost. You're not a snake, you're clearly a python. On the first day of the new book release, we need to show some sincerity. Please support us. Collect. Recommended." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Ancestral. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Ancestral. Lu Qi pulled out his baton, and Li Zhong looked left and right. He grabbed a mop from the side, inch by inch long and strong, which seemed more reliable against the snake. The store manager Yuli lay straight behind the counter, and the person had already fainted from fear. There was no big snake around, as the salesperson had mentioned. Lu Qi signaled to Li Zhong, and regardless of whether there was a snake, he moved the person out first. The two of them slowly approached, observing the surroundings as they walked. About 2 meters away from Yuli, they smelled a foul odor. Lu Qi stopped and saw the black and yellow striped snake, which was right next to her. The female salesperson just now did not exaggerate. From the outside, it appears to be a cucumber snake, with a body length of 2 meters or more. The snake also sensed their approach and cautiously raised its head. Li Zhong's hand holding the mop trembled slightly and whispered, "This is too big, let's call it 119. Lu Qi glanced at Li Zhong, who was indeed very big. However, as a police officer, he had to ask the fire department for assistance in dealing with a cucumber snake, which was not laughable. Moreover, the snake was very close to Yuli and could launch an attack at any time to harm her body. "It's too late, save the person first. You're responsible for attracting its attention, and I'll save the person." "Me." Li Zhong clearly has ambiguity about his rescue plan. Isn't it just bait to attract attention? "Why is it me?" Lu Qi said, "Let's exchange and give me the mop." Li Zhong swallowed his saliva and reluctantly handed the mop over. Lu Qi took the mop and continued to approach forward, waving the mop at the watermelon snake. The snake remained motionless. According to his knowledge, the watermelon snake, also known as the king's snake, has no venom or fangs. There are two common attack methods: biting and using its body to wrap around it. A snake as big as this has strong attack power. People call it the king of 100 snakes, and there is a saying that 1 mile has cauliflower, and 10 miles have no venomous snakes. Lu Qi bravely moved forward, waving a mop and sweeping towards the head of Wang Jinshi. This success angered it, and Wang Jinshi began to swim towards him, gradually moving away from Yuli. Li Zhong saw the opportunity and immediately rushed up, picked up Yuli, and tried to take her to a safe area as soon as possible. Speaking from the east to the west, the king's golden snake rushed back like lightning, abandoning Lu Qi. The thick and thin body at the mouth of the bowl wrapped around Li Zhong's ankle. Seeing that the situation was not good, Lu Qi hurriedly threw down his mop and flew towards him. Before Wang Jinshi opened her mouth and bit Li Zhong, she grabbed it tightly by 7 inches with both hands. A powerful torque pulled Li Zhong downwards, causing Li Zhong to lose balance and fall to the ground while holding Yuli. However, at this moment, Yuli woke up and, seeing what was happening before him, screamed in fear and fainted again. Lu Qi used all his strength to grab the king's snake and dared not let go. With a slight relaxation, the king's snake's fangs would leave blood holes on their bodies without hesitation. Even if it was non-toxic, the risk of bacterial infection was high. Li Zhong could only let go of Yuli, tug at the snake's tail, and try to break free from the entanglement of the king's golden snake. Only by immersing himself in it can he experience the power of this snake, which demonstrates far greater strength than that of an adult. With the joint efforts of the two, Wang Jinshi gradually pulled her body apart. At this moment, the ceiling above her head made a rumbling sound, and a dark object fell from the sky with the falling ceiling. Another king's golden snake, although slightly small in size, landed on Lu Qi's shoulder without bias. The slender snake body of its wrist tightly gripped Lu Qi's neck like a rope. The sudden and intense pressure caused Lu Qi to feel a severe suffocation. His face turned red due to rapid congestion, and at this moment, he was filled with regret. This kind of professional thing should still be done by professionals. They were eager to save people and underestimated the difficulties on site, causing great trouble. Although there were many onlookers outside, no one dared to enter easily because of the distance and power outage inside the business hall, and no one was clear about the specific situation inside. Lu Qi even thought of death. Wang Jinshi's body became tighter and tighter, and he could no longer breathe. Venus appeared in front of him, and his strength began to rapidly decline. The onlookers were not aware of the dangerous situation inside, and most of them were busy taking videos with their phones. Due to distance and lighting, they couldn't record any details at all. At a critical moment, Su Chunliang separated the crowd and walked in. As he approached the scene, he raised his right hand and rhythmically opened and closed his 5 fingers. Wang Jinshi, who was entangled around Lu Qi's neck, was attracted by his gestures and surprisingly relaxed his body, moving away from Lu Qi. The other snake winding around Li Zhong was also like this. The 2 king snakes were clearly full of fear towards Su Chunliang as they approached, giving up all their attacking actions, but did not go far. As Su Chunliang approached, the 2 large snakes also became increasingly vigilant. The male Wang Jin snake raised its head, which was a precursor to the impending attack. Su Chunliang sighed inwardly. Not only did he lose all his internal strength, but his ability to drive snakes and insects was also greatly reduced. In the past, these snakes and insects saw themselves obediently and distanced themselves, but now they dare to stab themselves. Seeing Wang Jinshi spitting out a bright red letter, Su Chunliang couldn't help but feel angry. He raised his right palm and slapped it on the top of his head. Wang Jinshi was a bit confused by his slap, and before he could figure out the situation, Su Chunliang slapped her again. The 2 big snakes were completely stunned by his aura, and suddenly, they knew each other. Lu Qi regained his freedom and was finally able to breathe freely. At this moment, a terrifying bloodstain had already been strangled on his neck, and he breathed heavily, relieving his symptoms of hypoxia. Li Zhong got up from the ground, then picked up Yuli and helped her leave here first. Lu Qi saw Su Chunliang and 2 big snakes facing each other, with a distance of less than half a meter. He nervously reminded them, Su Tsong, it's dangerous, stay away from them. His voice even became hoarse. Su Chunliang smiled calmly and said, I have an ancestral snake catching technique. Don't worry, they won't hurt me. Go find 2 larger burlap bags and take them away. When the Forestry Bureau personnel arrived with professional snake-catching tools, the crisis here had already been resolved. 2 Wang Jin snakes were packed in burlap bags, and the larger one weighed over 40 pounds. Professionals can't believe it, the police officers nowadays are so powerful. What else are there that they don't know, like the moon in the 9 heavens and catching turtles in the 5 oceans below? At the request of the journalist who rushed to the scene upon hearing the news, 2 police officers took a photo with the spoils of war and received applause from exclusive heroes. Before the support personnel arrived, Su Chunliang had already left. He specifically instructed Lu Qi not to mention what had just happened, let alone his name. People are afraid of fame and pigs are afraid of strength. It is not a good thing to easily expose one's own strength in any era. If the situation is not dangerous, he will not take the initiative to act. If Lu Qiren is good, consider it as giving him a favor. Su Changshan is already preparing for the relocation. This morning, Gao Xinhua came back to negotiate the specific demolition contract with him. The second phase of the project is imminent, and the hospital can't wait anymore. In order to address the issue of Su Chunliang's staffing, Dean Gu specifically consulted the leadership of the Health Bureau, and it took some effort to resolve this matter. As for the other conditions, they have been planned very thoroughly and discussed countless times before, and the plan is already mature. When it comes to the issue of the old man establishing an expert clinic to personally teach his grandson, Gao Xinhua believes that there is no need to act too hastily. The hospital hired Su Chunliang and gave him a formal position, which is already an exception. I don't know how many pairs of eyes are watching, and how many people will gossip in the future. Even if the old man wants to do this, he still needs to wait until the hype has passed before making a decision. Gao Xinhua also had his reasons and sincerely said, Uncle Su, I know you are always worried about Su Tsong, but sooner or later you have to let go. I am also a father. When my daughter went to college, I was also very worried. From childhood to adulthood, it was our couple who arranged everything for her. She had to face everything on her own when she went to college in the capital, fearing that she wouldn't be able to handle it. However, the fact proved that not only did she handle it, but she also handled it with ease. Su Changshan has also been reflecting these days. A large part of the reason why his grandson has become what he is now is due to his own indulgence, because his parents were not by his side since childhood, and he always wanted to give him more love. However, it has been proven that some missing love cannot be replaced. Do you mean to renege on the conditions you promised me before? Gao Xinhua smiled and said, Uncle, how could such a large hospital in Changxing go back on its word? He lowered his voice and said, I am also considering your personal interests and cooperating with the hospital to open a traditional Chinese medicine clinic. In the future, your sign of rejuvenation may not be as bright. What you mean is to persuade me to accept the second plan, find a new location, and reopen the revival hall. Gao Xinhuadao said, I didn't say anything. In fact, Su Changshan has considered this matter for a long time. Although the rejuvenation hall is not big, he has the final say here. If he chooses to cooperate with Changxing Hospital to open a TCM clinic, although the influence and source of disease have increased, it is inevitable that he will not be controlled by the hospital in the future. The old man has been free all his life, and the old man does not want to be constrained by the system again. Everything is for the sake of my grandson, only by watching with my own eyes can I feel at ease. Gao Xinhua tentatively said, how about you ask the child what they mean? At this moment, Su Chunliang came in from outside and saw Gao Xinhua calling out for Uncle Gao. In the past 6 months, Gao Xinhua often came over and naturally met him many times. Speaking of which, Su Chunliang and his daughter were classmates in the same class. Even though his daughter was already in her senior year, this kid still failed to repeat his studies. In Gao Xinhua's impression, this kid was just a sullen gourd. Every time he saw someone who didn't even say hello, he hung his head and hurriedly avoided them. Unexpectedly, this time he knew how to call someone, probably because he knew about work. Su Chunliang was quite eye-catching. He went to fetch them a cup of tea first, and then said he would go upstairs to tidy up and let them talk first. Su Changshan said, Chunliang, don't leave yet. I have something to discuss with you. Su Chunliang stopped and stood obediently beside the old man. Su Changshan let him sit down, feeling relieved in his heart. Sun Tzu was indeed sensible, and he briefly explained several hospital plans, allowing him to choose on his own. As the child grew older, he had the right to make his own choices. After listening, Su Chunliang understood the old man's good intentions and smiled, saying, since my grandfather asked me to speak, I will dare to say a few words. If there are any shortcomings, don't laugh, elders. After all, Gao Xinhuaxin is a family of traditional Chinese medicine. Although he is a scumbag, he is still knowledgeable and reasonable, and his words exude a sense of gentleness. The Spring Festival Hall is my grandfather's hard work and also a signature passed down by our Su family. Of course, it should be preserved. Grandpa, you don't have to worry about my work, Uncle Gao will definitely take care of me, right? Gao Xinhua nodded with a smile, but felt as if something was wrong in his heart. He had always thought that this kid was quiet and reserved, and his performance in front of him was somewhat subverting the past impression. Su Chunliang said, then I won't delay your discussion. Grandpa, I just went to the police station and changed my name. What? I was surprised when it came to the old man this time. Change it to Su Chunliang, change the name, change the way of life. Listening to him say this, Su Changshan is more down to earth. Su Tsong was raised by his father, and the word Chunliang was his own title. When a man was 20, he was given the title. The reason why Su Changshan gave his grandson the title was because he felt that his previous name was not true. Although his grandson was not stupid, he could never be considered intelligent. Since his talent was not good, he could only rely on his pure and good character. Well done, well done. Su Changshan praised, and this name can also be considered a recognition of his taste. Since Sun Tzu had expressed his attitude, Su Changshan no longer hesitated and decided to find a new location to reopen the rejuvenation hall. He also had an additional condition: as long as Sun Tzu obtained his physician qualification certificate, Changxing had to arrange for him to work in the traditional Chinese medicine department. Gao Xinhua has also calculated a matter of concern. It is easy to invite the Buddha but difficult to send him away. If we really want to invite Mr. Su to the hospital, we don't know how much trouble we will face in the future. Although we sacrificed one unit, we have solved the problem of the demolition of the Spring Festival Hall after all. During the new book period, all alliance leaders will be arranged to add updates after they are listed. Thank you for not waking up the girls' first alliance, and thank you to all the new and old readers who reward octopuses. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Bumblebee Dance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Bumblebee Dance. Through mutual consultation, in addition to providing conditions for Su Chunliang to arrange work, Changxing Hospital will provide a one-time compensation of 6 million yuan for the demolition, and the demolition matter has finally been successfully resolved. The old man spent over 4 million yuan on a shop across the river, and the purchase contract stated his grandson's name. The purpose of doing so was to save a considerable transfer fee in 100 years. Su Changshan has many children and grandchildren, but his favorite is still this one. Not only did he grow up alone, but he also felt that this child's fate was difficult, and his father did not love his mother. Of course, he also sought the opinions of his two daughters beforehand, and they both agreed. As for his son Su Zheshuan, of course, he would not have any opinions and even offered to pay half of the money. Mr. Su asked him to keep the money for Su Chunliang's future marriage. The layout of the shop is similar to before, with 2 floors up and down. The first floor is open to the public, the second floor is available for living, and there is also a small courtyard of over 20 square meters in the back that can be used for planting flowers and grass. The remaining money is also kept for my grandson. Su Changshan is not short of money. He has been practicing medicine for a lifetime and has accumulated a lot of wealth. As he grows older, he will be useful, let alone in the field of traditional Chinese medicine. The 3 children have good conditions, and the living expenses sent to him every year are at least 200,000 yuan. As for buying a house for Su Chunliang, he doesn't have to worry at all. Su Zheshuan once said that if his son is willing to live abroad, he will arrange it. If he insists on staying in China, he can afford to buy a house in any city. After the simple decoration of the new storefront, the moving process was initiated, and Changxing Hospital was waiting to start construction. Su Changshan also spoke his words and acted accordingly. The old man values the signs of the revival hall the most, so he personally brought them over. Su Chunliang asked his grandfather not to have to fuss back and forth. He entrusted himself with the task of moving here and went there to wait for the inventory to be collected. The division of labor between the two was clear. They have already moved the valuable medicinal herbs in advance. Today, the main task of moving is furniture and books. The books are decent, and the furniture is made of solid wood, which is very heavy. For example, moving a medicine cabinet requires 4 adult laborers. Su Chunliang's task was to supervise and remind the workers not to touch the furniture. Just as they were working vigorously, Lu Qi arrived. He was off work today and came specifically to buy some plasters for his mother. Coincidentally, he happened to catch up with the Spring Festival Hall moving house. Su Chunliang knew his purpose and asked him to buy at a new address another day. He was too busy today to take care of him. Lu Qi didn't leave either, so he took the initiative to stay and help. There were still many fragile bottles and jars in the Spring Festival Hall, which had to be specially packed and transported. Lu Qi discovered that Su Chunliang didn't have many friends either. Usually, when it comes to this kind of thing, no one would ask 3 or 5 friends to come over and help. Lu Qi's career determines that his safety awareness is stronger than that of ordinary people. He reminds moving workers to pay attention to safety. In his opinion, it doesn't matter if something is broken, but it's not good if it harms someone. Despite repeated reminders, there was still an accident towards the end of the move. Several workers accidentally slipped while moving bookshelves upstairs, and a person below rolled down the stairs. Fortunately, several colleagues grabbed the bookshelves tightly, otherwise the outcome would be even worse. When Su Chunliang heard the screams and arrived, the workers of the moving company had already lifted the bookshelf with all their hands and feet. The worker who slid down the stairs lay on the ground screaming loudly. When he fell, his right arm landed first, causing a dislocation of his elbow joint. The arm has deformed and the elbow joint protrudes inward, which is a typical lateral dislocation. The foreman saw the scene in front of him and loudly said, "Hurry up and take me to the hospital, hurry up." After finishing speaking, he said to Su Chunliang, "You can get me 5,000 yuan first." Su Chunliang was stunned for a moment. "Don't be stunned, someone has been injured in your home, you have to take responsibility for seeing a doctor." The truth seems to be this truth, but the aggressive attitude makes people uncomfortable. "No money," Su Chunliang said truthfully. A group of people from the moving company stared at Su Chunliang and fiercely surrounded him, saying, "What do you mean? Do you still want to admit it?" After all, Lu Qi has been in society for many years and has seen many things before. He quickly stepped forward and separated them, saying, "What are you doing? No one wants him to get hurt. Send him to the hospital first, and as for whose responsibility we will discuss later, the amount of money we should receive will not be less." For things like this, a contract is usually signed in advance to clarify responsibilities, as bumps and bruises are inevitable during the moving process, and injuries are also common occurrences. Prudent customers will make it clear in advance that if an employee of a moving company is injured while moving, the moving company where the mover works should be held responsible. I came up and asked Su Chunliang for money, but the other party was a bit excessive. The foreman said reluctantly, "Don't talk to me about it. Take the money to see a doctor first." "Why don't you have the money? Call Mr. Su." "Clean your mouth for me." Su Chunliang, who appeared gentle on the surface, did not flinch. The foreman pointed his hand at Su Chunliang's nose and said, "Why did you hurt my person?" and even treated him. Lu Qi was worried that Su Chunliang would suffer losses, and was about to reveal his police identity to deter the emotionally agitated group of workers when he heard the foreman let out a scream. But his outstretched index finger was caught by Su Chunliang. With a counterclockwise twist, the foreman plopped and knelt down. Su Chunliang looked down at the foreman from a high position and said, "If you have something to say, if you dare to be impure to me, you will be slapped with your big mouth. Fuck you." Pop. Surprisingly, Su Chunliang really slapped him. The slap was loud and crisp, with little damage and extremely insulting. It was already merciful, and in the past, this person would have lost half of his life if he didn't die. "Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go." The group of workers from the moving company saw that the foreman was being restrained by Su Chunliang, and slapped him in public. They couldn't hold back their anger, staring up one by one, gritting their teeth as if they were about to tear him apart. Lu Qi shouted, "Don't move, I'm a police officer." Su Chunliang sneered and said, "Show me one and I'll have you all go to the hospital." With a slight force in his hand, the worker let out a pig-like scream. Lu Qi looked at the boy in surprise. He originally thought he was a gentle and cowardly little sheep, but since Su Chunliang captured the python that day, his impression began to change. Now, he has witnessed his actions with his own eyes, steady and ruthless. Even well-trained himself may not be able to easily subdue these rough foremen. Thinking of the scene he threw himself into the air at the Peace Bridge that day, this boy is only superficially weak, but actually a trainer. Faced with a group of strong and rough men, Su Chunliang showed no fear and made decisive moves. He first controlled the leader, fully demonstrating his strong psychological qualities. How could such a person seek short-sightedness? At present, the most important thing for Lu Qi is to prevent the situation from escalating further. He advised Su Chunliang, "Don't be impulsive, let the person go first." During this period, Su Chunliang had gained an understanding of the laws of this world and was no longer in an era of rampant crime and frequent killing. Therefore, he let go of the foreman's finger. The foreman regained his freedom and remembered slapping him in front of everyone just now. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed and angry. He turned around and picked up the bench, roaring and rushing forward to fight against Su Chunliang. Lu Qi stopped him in time and sternly rebuked, "What are you doing? Do you want to go to jail? Put it down immediately." The foreman was shaken by Lu Qi's aura, and the stool he lifted slowly fell down. His mouth still refused, "You wait for me." Su Chunliang didn't even pay attention to these people. He came to the injured worker and grabbed his right arm. The injured person let out a pig-like scream. A group of workers thought Su Chunliang was not good for their companions, so they cheered and surrounded him again. Lu Qi also doesn't know what Su Chunliang wants to do. Watching the atmosphere that had just eased suddenly become tense again, I couldn't help but secretly complain. This kid is really not at ease. Su Chunliang grabbed the other person's upper arm with one hand and his wrist with the other, moving around and around, only hearing a click, successfully repositioning the dislocated elbow joint of the injured person. Although everyone was an outsider, as they watched the injured person's deformed arms return to normal, everyone now understood that Su Chunliang did not intend to harm the injured person, but rather took action to help him receive treatment. Su Chunliang said to the injured worker, "Give it a try to move around and see if you see it." After the joint was repositioned, the pain suddenly stopped. The worker carefully moved his elbow, making sure that the joint had been repositioned and was no different from usual. He was pleasantly surprised and said, "All right, it's not painful anymore." Lu Qi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Under the fame of the Huachuntang, there were no illustrious scholars. It seemed that Su Chunliang had inherited a lot of family knowledge, and he was not surprised. After all, no one in Dongzhou knew the reputation of the Huachuntang for treating bone injuries, and dislocation reduction was just the simplest technique. As a young owner of the Huachuntang, it was normal for Su Chunliang to have some medical skills. Lu Qi said, "As long as it's okay." The foreman persisted and insisted on going to the hospital for a check-up. The hospital said it was okay and insisted that Huachuntang pay for the check-up. Upon hearing the news, Su Changshan hurriedly rushed over and, with a calm attitude, paid the workers to go to Changxing Hospital for an examination. The examination results showed that the injured person's right elbow joint had been successfully repositioned, except for a few skin abrasions that were not serious. According to normal procedures, a contract should be signed between the customer and the moving company. If an employee is injured due to the weight or volume of the customer's items, the moving company should be responsible. Injury incidents caused by quality issues with the items being moved by the customer can be negotiated, and both the moving company and the customer are responsible for medical expenses. This accident has nothing to do with the Spring Festival Hall, but the old man was negligent and did not sign a formal contract, so he was taken advantage of by the moving company. It's better to do less than to do more. In addition to the inspection fee, Su Changshan also gave an extra 1,000 yuan for nutrition. Faced with this terrible situation, the old man was also very unhappy. Although the other party said they could continue to help him move the things, the old man refused to use these people anymore. The moving fee was given without delay, and another 1,000 yuan was ordered to be paid to the foreman, urging them to leave quickly. The group of people from the moving company left with satisfaction, and Su Chunliang followed them to the door. Lu Qi was worried that he might not be angry and have another conflict, so he quickly followed out and patted Su Chunliang's shoulder, saying, "What are you going to do?" Su Chunliang smiled and said, "I didn't do anything. Send them off." The foreman heard his words and turned around to give him a fierce glare, still resenting the slap this guy gave him. Su Chunliang said, "Keep going, how do you plan to spend the money?" The foreman retorted, "I can spend whatever I want, what the hell are you doing? It seems like I haven't figured it out. Let me give you a suggestion to save it for buying medicine." Lu Qi realized that this guy was actually a person who didn't leave anyone behind. He quickly made up for it and said, forget it, you guys have the money too. Let's go quickly." With a buzzing sound in his ear, Lu Qi fixed his gaze and looked over, only to find a wasp flying by. He thought it was just a coincidence, but the buzzing continued in his ears. Several people heard the sound and looked up. Under the eaves of the Spring Revival Hall, there is a hornet's nest, and each hornet flapping its wings and flying. Under the sunlight, golden light flickers. The foreman suddenly felt a little uneasy because he saw the wasps flying in his direction and said, "Hurry. Get on the car." A few people hurriedly ran towards the car, but before they could reach it, hundreds of wasps rushed forward and launched an all-out attack on them. The rules for the new book list should have been changed. Octopus hasn't figured them out yet, probably related to following up, collecting, recommending, and tipping. Everyone, help the old octopus grow together with the new books. P.S. Don't worry, everyone. This octopus will regain my character, even though my character was already good. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Before reporting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Before reporting. Lu Qi was also startled, and he quickly ran towards the Spring Revival Hall. Ma Feng doesn't care about your identity. When he ran into the Spring Revival Hall, he found Su Chunliang still standing at the door. This guy looked at the chaotic scene ahead with contentment and whispered, "I told you to keep it to buy medicine. Brother Lu, help them call 120. An elderly voice rang out, "Don't be so troublesome. Treating bee venom in Dongzhou is the second best option for us. No one dares to call it the first." Su Changshan walked slowly to the door. In his opinion, this group of people just didn't deserve it, but he didn't expect it to come so soon. The beehive under the eaves has existed for several years, and there have been occasional incidents of wasps stinging people. However, it is still the first time that a full-scale attack has been launched like today. The old man was skilled and kind-hearted. Although these moving workers had just knocked on their bamboo poles, they couldn't turn a blind eye. They brought specially made incense from the Spring Festival Hall and lit it, distributing it to Su Chunliang and Lu Qi, asking them to help disperse the bee colony. Lu Qi bravely followed the two of them and dispersed the swarm of bees dancing wildly in front of him. Before they could approach, the swarm scattered and fled, disappearing completely in no time. Lu Qi thought the incense was working, but Su Changshan noticed that the activity of the bee colony was somewhat unusual. There were many pedestrians passing by in front of the door, but the target of the bee colony's attack just now was only 6 people from the moving company and did not affect anyone else. This is a bit strange. Is it really a cycle of natural retribution? Several members of the moving company have been stung by wasps like pig heads, with the foreman being the most severely affected. It can be said that 50% of the swarm's firepower is concentrated on him, and the remaining 5 people jointly bear the other half. The foreman's head is as big as a pig's head, with swollen eyes that cannot be seen. Su Changshan asked Su Chunliang and Lu Qi to help bring 6 injured people into the Spring Festival Hall. The foreman's mouth was also stung and swollen, and he couldn't help but say, "I want to go to the hospital, I want to go to the hospital." He was worried about retaliation from the Spring Festival Hall. Su Chunliang said, "Do you like to go or not, Grandpa? Let's treat the others first." Many onlookers followed in, chattering incessantly. Many of them were laughing at the foreman. Who in this area didn't understand Mr. Su's medical skills, and he was willing to sacrifice his proximity for his distance. It seems that the foreman's mind has been stung by a wasp. The primary step in dealing with bee stings is to compress the wound, expel some broken bee needles and venom left behind in the wound, and reduce damage to the tissue. Su Changshan put on his reading glasses, took specially made tweezers, and prepared to start treatment. Su Chunliang said, "Grandpa, don't worry, they haven't paid yet." Several workers who had been stung were itching and painful, and now they only want to relieve the pain as soon as possible, without worrying about the money. They were eager to say, "Give it up, let's give it up. As much as we need, we won't be defaulting." Su Chunliang patted the foreman's shoulder and said, "Where's the money?" The foreman was also a wise person, so he quickly took out the money he had just stolen from the old man and refunded the 1,000 yuan nutrition fee in its original form. Su Chunliang stubbornly said, "It's a bit missing." The foreman could only return the moving expenses to him, which was great. He didn't get a penny out of it and ended up with a lot of money. Su Changshan has started treatment by using small tweezers to remove some bee needles left in the wound one by one, while squeezing the venom. Su Chunliang watched from the side. After all, the old man was getting old and his hands were trembling while operating, and his eyes were not very good. Therefore, it took a lot of time, and he did not take the initiative to take action. The treatment of this bee venom is very simple. In the past, he used to use his palm to stick to the wound and suck out the poisonous needle and venom with the power of star suction, which was 100 times more efficient than his grandfather's. However, now he has almost lost all of his internal skills and is unable to freely use the power of absorbing stars. During this period, Su Chunliang has browsed through many books in the collection of the Spring Festival Hall and learned about some ancestral secret formulas. In his opinion, these formulas are very ordinary, but in the contemporary era where traditional Chinese medicine is declining, they can be considered precious. Otherwise, the name of the Spring Festival Hall would not have been so well known, and his grandfather would not have been awarded the title of inheritor of intangible cultural heritage. It took Su Changshan 2 hours to remove the poisonous needles from several people's bodies, and Su Chunliang followed his instructions to repeatedly rinse the affected areas with physiological saline and hydrogen peroxide. After debridement treatment, apply them with the exclusive and secret snake medicine powder of huachuntang, which is mainly composed of 7 leaves and 1 branch flower, toad skin, centipede, and digenkale. It is the most effective in treating snake and insect bites. After sprinkling the medicinal powder, the effect was immediate, and the affected area of a few people immediately stopped itching. A few people with mild symptoms were able to move freely, and the face of the foreman who was stung the hardest also began to reduce swelling. Although it was still like a pig's head, at least something could be seen through the cracks in their eyes. Lu Qi was not idle either. In the absence of any help, he called 119 and asked his colleagues from the fire department to clear the large beehive. Staying there was ultimately a hidden danger. 6 patients were treated consecutively, and Mr. Su didn't ask for much money. He asked a few people from the moving company to go back and rest. Although a few people realized their conscience and wanted to help the Spring Festival Hall move the remaining things, they were refused by the old man. Lu Qi helped to contact another moving company and moved the remaining items to a new location with Su Chunliang. After everything was done, Lu Qi brought up the matter of buying medicine. The old man took the ointment for him, but insisted on not accepting the money. Lu Qi had to secretly keep 300 yuan, and after leaving, he sent a message to inform Su Chunliang. After the statue returned to its original position and offered incense to the ancestor, Su Changshan sat on a recliner, staring blankly at the sign of the revival hall. Su Chunliang poured him a cup of tea and said, "Grandpa, choose a place where I can hang the sign." "Don't worry," the old man took a sip of tea and thought to himself, "I'm already old. Even if I hang this sign of the revival hall, I don't know how long it will last. My grandson now has a good job, but he doesn't have the intention to actively study medicine. With the shadow of jumping into the river before, he no longer dares to force him. Fortunately, after that incident, this child has clearly become much more cheerful and should have emerged from the shadow of failing the college entrance examination." Su Chunliang's phone rang. It was from the personnel department of Changxing Hospital, informing him to report to the hospital next Monday. Su Chunliang hung up the phone and reported the good news to his grandfather. The old man's heart was finally at ease, and no matter what, he finally got an iron rice bowl. The matter of studying medicine should be considered in the long run. According to Gao Xinhua, there is also a chain of disdain in hospitals. Clinicians look down on medical skills look down on administration, and administration looks down on logistics. When this kid really starts working, he will see the gap and feel inequality. Maybe he will wake up and be brave after realizing his shame. Recently, Su Changshan has begun to summarize his experience in practicing medicine throughout his life. People are rare in their 70s, and it is time to consider their future affairs. If this kid insists on not studying medicine, he cannot let the secret recipe of the Su family be lost. Taking advantage of his own confusion, he should first write it down in writing and leave it to his grandson in the future, which can also be considered a way of passing down the family's legacy. Su Changshan had an extra mindset, using the excuse of his old age blindness to rewrite the draft with the help of his grandson in small regular script. Although Su Chunliang was not a top student, he had been practicing calligraphy under his guidance since childhood, and his handwriting was quite beautiful. Su Changshan wanted to use this method to subtly influence his grandson, and Su Chunliang showed great cooperation in this matter. Every time he finished copying, he would show it to his grandfather. According to Su Changshan's intention, I originally intended to deliberately pick flaws, point out errors and omissions, and ask my grandson to copy them several times. However, after reading them from beginning to end, I found that not only was there no error or omission, but my grandson's calligraphy has made a leap forward compared to the past. His calligraphy is so beautiful and pleasing that even I cannot match it. Su Changshan saw it in his eyes and was pleased in his heart. He was the top scorer in his 36 elements. Although his grandson was not good at taking the exam, it did not mean that he was not good in other aspects. Gao Xinhua was right. When it was time to let go, let him face society alone. Su Chunliang carefully studied the old man's intentions. In his eyes, the ancestral secret recipe that his grandfather valued as a treasure was not worth mentioning. He learned medicine before practicing poison, and he had already read the world's medical books and classics in the past. During this period, he rarely goes out, except for practicing the Tongtian Baodian. Most of the time he is reading books at home. Su Changshan has a rich collection of books, most of which are medical classics. Su Chunliang has browsed through them and found that there has been little progress in traditional Chinese medicine over the years. Traditional medical books such as the Huangdi Neijing, Nanjing, Shanghan Zabing Luan, and Shenong Benchao Jing, which can be seen everywhere, have been revered as the four major classics of Chinese medicine. The Pulse Classic and Acupuncture and Moxibustion Classics A and B have also been handed down, but the contents are incomplete. The Ghost Relics, Mo Tianwen and the like are totally unrecognizable. As for the Poison Classic, Cicada Change, Thousand Insects Change and other evil medicine secret scripts, they are completely lost. The cultivation progress of Tongtian Baodian is slow, and he has unknowingly arrived in this world for more than a month. However, he cannot even achieve the most basic gathering of qi as he pleases. Fortunately, there are not many masters in this world, and there are no enemies coming to his door, so he did not feel the urgent survival crisis. The slow progress of internal strength may be due to changes in meridians, or it may be related to his current weak physique. Su Chunliang decided to start with the most basic exercise. Although modern martial arts is desolate, the training equipment has advanced countless times compared to the past, and the training methods are also very scientific. Su Chunliang combined ancient and modern methods to design an effective body refining method. With scientific methods and diligent training, the thin and weak body becomes stronger at a visible speed to the naked eye. Su Changshan saw it in his eyes, thinking that he had lost the pressure of the college entrance examination, had a broad mind and a chubby body, and did not think elsewhere. Before reporting, some things need to be prepared. Grandpa gave him 10,000 yuan, which was given by his father in North America. Every year, Su Zheshuan transfers 120,000 yuan as Su Chunliang's living expenses. Based on the concept of raising daughters with wealth and raising children with poverty, Su Changxing used to have relatively tight economic restrictions. Now that his grandson has started working, the expenses will naturally increase significantly. This 10,000 is for him to buy clothes and change his phone. He also suggested that Su Chunliang study for a driver's license, as no young person nowadays knows how to drive. The day before reporting, Su Chunliang went to a nearby commercial square, bought 2 sets of clothes, and then went to the mobile phone store to choose his phone. This business hall was the place where the snake was attacked that day, and Su Chunliang chose his phone just as he was preparing to pay the bill. A exquisitely dressed girl walked over and said, "Give him the factory price." The person who came was the manager of the specialty store, Yu Li. When Yu Li had an accident that day, although she was scared and fainted twice, she still retained some memories when she woke up in the middle. She vaguely remembered that a young man had helped them in the end. When Su Chunliang entered the store, she felt familiar with her eyes and only dared to confirm after asking colleagues present that day. Su Chunliang smiled at her and said, "Thank you very much." Yu Li smiled and said, "I should thank you. I remember you came in to help me that day. A trivial matter, why bother mentioning it?" Yu Li didn't think it was a small matter, and now she feels scared when she thinks about what happened that day. Afterwards, she specifically thanked the 2 police officers and asked about Su Chunliang's information. However, the police did not disclose it, only admitting that there was a kind-hearted crowd helping at the time, but they did a good deed and quietly left without leaving their names. Yu Li has an outgoing personality. Although she doesn't have the skills of a martial arts woman, she exudes a certain level of heroism and boldness. She gave Su Chunliang the most favorable discount, including a phone case and a film. During the process of handling the procedures, I chatted with Su Chunliang for a while and heard that he was going to work at Changxing Hospital. I immediately opened my conversation. Changxing Hospital is her business unit, and the group number of the hospital is handled by their business hall. She has many acquaintances at Changxing Hospital, and her sister Umo is a doctor in the obstetrics and gynecology department. Yu Li is a warm-hearted person who even offered to introduce her sister to him. In her opinion, young people who are new to the workplace have more friends and paths. Su Chunliang was already talkative and got along well with Yu Li. They added their contact information to each other and Yu Li suggested that she come to organize the game in 2 days and invite 3 life-saving benefactors to dinner. Thank you to the Shanyang Flute Sound Alliance leader for the grand reward, and thank you to all the readers who appreciate octopuses. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Joining Changxing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Joining Changxing. Changxing Hospital is one of the 5 most influential comprehensive hospitals in Dongzhou City, ranking last in terms of strength among the 5 major hospitals. After the reform and opening up, the medical system has undergone several reforms, and each of the 5 major hospitals that can stand firm in Dongzhou City has its own advantages. Changxing used to excel in oncology and urology, and was the first hospital in Dongzhou to introduce linear accelerators and carry out kidney replacement surgery. In the early 1990s, it also had a period of glory. However, after entering the 21st century, Changxing experienced severe talent outflow and did not receive much attention from the city in terms of policies. Its development was slow and it gradually distanced itself from the other 4 companies. Although Dean Gu Hui has devoted himself wholeheartedly to the development of the hospital, he is still relatively old and his management level is inevitably outdated. Many of the middle-level cadres in the hospital are his fellow villagers. Gu Hui often says that selecting talents does not avoid relatives, but the hospital insiders say that he is biased towards favoritism. This should be Gu Hui's last year in Changxing. As a department-level official, Gu Hui could have chosen to lie flat, but he was unwilling. Other hospitals were building and expanding, and Changxing's second-phase expansion plan was proposed 6 years ago. During this period, there were many twists and turns, and he finally waited for approval from the city, but unfortunately encountered obstacles in demolition. Gu Hui originally intended to complete the second phase of the hospital project before he retired, which was a satisfactory explanation for both the hospital and himself. Unfortunately, heaven does not follow people's wishes and there is no ambition left. Time is running out of time, so I plan to take a step back and start the second phase of the expansion project. At least he needs to lay the foundation and start construction before leaving. There is no selfishness and he just wants to do something for Changxing. At the meeting on Monday morning, Gu Hui passionately outlined the blueprint for the second phase expansion. The middle-level cadres below had actually listened to it countless times and had lost their freshness. However, this time it was serious. The demolition project was about to begin, and soon the shantytowns around Changxing would be razed to the ground. In a few years, a modern ward building would rise from the ground. Vice Dean Geng Wenxiu sat in the small conference room, carefully recording, but in his heart, he was calculating what would happen to Gu Hui next year. After Gu Hui leaves, who is most likely to take over his position? Taking a glance at Gao Xinhua beside him, the first thing he denied was that Gao Xinhua's army had changed jobs, but his education was not good, and he didn't have much advantage in age. His deputy position was already the limit of his personal career. Yan Hui, the first vice dean, the third tier, has a graduate degree, but who doesn't know if his first degree is an associate degree? Graduate students are employed and do not have a master's degree. At the age of 51, he missed the golden opportunity for promotion, had poor eloquence, and stuttered when speaking on stage, making it difficult for such a person to take on a major role. Qin Guoyang, the director of the Department of Cardiology, holds a medical doctorate, and is an elite person recruited by the hospital with a lot of money. His deputy dean is just an honorary title, and the business of the Department of Cardiology is too busy to manage the hospital. Moreover, this type of person belongs to the category of medical immigrants, making it difficult to convince others. Geng Wenxiu eliminated her opponents one by one in her heart, and the more she wanted to take over from Gu Hui, the greater the possibility. This October, the World Women's Congress was held in Beijing, and taking advantage of the conference's momentum, she is very likely to make further progress. Geng Wenxiu was so engrossed in her thoughts that she didn't even hear Gu Hui announce the end of the meeting. It was only when Gao Xinhua reminded her that she was startled. The two of them naturally went out together. Geng Wenxiu, with a height of 1.72 meters, looked even more fierce than Gao Xinhua wearing high heels. Habitually shaking his hair, he said, "Old Gao, have all those nail households moved out?" Gao Xinhua smiled and said, "I moved out." Geng Wenxiu knew that he was responsible for this matter and glanced at him, saying, "You're amazing, can you handle even stubborn old men who come back to life?" She had also worked before, but was rudely kicked out by Mr. Su. Geng Wenxiu, who comes from a cadre family, is proud and still remembers this matter to this day. Gao Xinhua nodded and briefly told her about the matter, which was not a secret anyway. Geng Wenxiu frowned and said, "How could Gu Yuan make concessions? I never expected that. It's not a good idea to make such an opening. Someone will definitely gossip in the future." Gao Xinhua actually dislikes this woman from the bottom of his heart. She relies on her family background, is arrogant, and has a very bad reputation in the hospital. He has always believed that the most beautiful woman, once full of power, loses her feminine charm, let alone the woman in front of him who is neither beautiful nor authoritarian. Gao Xinhua pretended to have forgotten something, turned around and walked towards the conference room, saying that they were not conspiring and would rather take 2 more steps than walk with her. Before taking a few steps, the phone rang, but it was Su Changshan who called. After all, he still didn't trust his grandson. Today was Su Chunliang's first day reporting to the hospital, and after much thought, he still wanted to say hello to Gao Xinhua to feel at ease. If it weren't for the old man's reminder, Gao Xinhua would have almost forgotten about Su Chunliang's report today. Although he was just a deputy, there were also many things that needed to be handled in the hospital, and he wouldn't have cared about such a small matter. Gao Xinhua reassured Mr. Su that he would take good care of Su Chunliang. With him in the hospital for a day, Su Chunliang would not be bullied. Today is the day for new employees to report in a centralized manner. Everyone should first go to the HR department to report, followed by regular onboarding medical examinations and centralized training. Then, the Science and Education Department will arrange department rotation training for them. Su Chunliang is one of the outliers. He only has a high school education, but among so many newcomers, he is the only one with a formal establishment. Fortunately, not many people know about this. In Su Chunliang's arrangement, the hospital also put in some effort to arrange worker positions. Su Changshan definitely couldn't explain it, but he didn't have a bachelor's degree and a medical qualification certificate. After much thought, he could only focus on introducing special talents. Huichuntang is a time-honored brand in Jiangzhou, and Su Changshan is the inheritor of intangible cultural heritage. Following this clue, Su Chunliang was given the title of inheritor of intangible cultural heritage. The intended department is the Department of Traditional Chinese Medicine, but the director of the Department of Traditional Chinese Medicine, Zhu Mingyuan, has clearly expressed his refusal. If the hospital forcibly brings in a high school graduate, he would rather choose to resign. In the Comprehensive Hospital of Changxing, although there is not much presence in the Traditional Chinese Medicine department, the chief physician Zhu Mingyuan still has some prestige. There is another reason why he reacted so strongly, as he believes that the downturn of the Traditional Chinese Medicine department is closely related to the existence of a revival hall. Many of his patients later went to the revival hall, and he also heard many rumors that his level was not as good as Su Changshan. In Zhu Mingyuan's eyes, Su Changshan was just a quack doctor who, without systematic learning, relied on several so-called secret formulas passed down from his ancestors to deceive and deceive. I am the authentic Chinese medicine practitioner. I graduated from Jingshi National Medical University as the chief physician, vice president of the Municipal Association of Traditional Chinese Medicine, and a permanent member. I have published numerous papers both domestically and internationally, but what is not as good as Su Changshan? He has no prejudice against Su Chunliang. If Su Chunliang had graduated from a serious university, he would not have been in a difficult position. However, as a high school student, it is said that he has been a repeat student for 3 consecutive years. Allowing such a person to enter his department is simply lowering the average level of the department. As the head of the Traditional Chinese Medicine department, he cannot afford to lose this person. The head of the Personnel department, Ma Hongmei, is also very troubled by this matter. The establishment is in the Department of Traditional Chinese Medicine, but the Department of Traditional Chinese Medicine refuses to accept it. The administrative department is either fully staffed or overstaffed, and the lifting of the bell requires a person to tie the bell. Knowing that this kid is a talent introduced by Vice Dean Gao, it is necessary to seek the opinion of Vice Dean Gao. Coincidentally, Gao Xinhua called to inquire about Su Chunliang's registration, and Ma Hongmei started to complain on the phone. Gao Xinhua can certainly understand Ma Hongmei's difficulties, while Su Chunliang cannot rotate like others. He knows nothing about medicine, and arranging a medical novice to go to the clinical department may lead to some loopholes. Ma Hongmei said, Director Zhu of the High Court has a very firm attitude. If Su Chunliang is forcibly assigned to their department, he will resign immediately. Gao Xinhua cursed inwardly, saying that Zhu Minghua relied on his old age to sell off his skills. He didn't have much ability and had a bad temper. After thinking for a moment, he said, let's first find a place for him in the administrative logistics, familiarize himself with the hospital environment, and observe his abilities. Ma Hongmei said, you are aware of the situation in our hospital's administrative department, and there are no extra positions in any department. The logistics position is easy to arrange, but it is not a workers' establishment. Gao Xinhuadao said, "The establishment is the establishment, and work is work." It is not a bad thing for young people to try more positions. If we assign popular departments to Su Chunliang now, it is likely to cause 1,000 waves with just one stone. Now everyone believes that Su Chunliang is his relationship, and Gao Xinhua does not want to be pushed to the forefront of the controversy. First, reduce the heat and wait for a suitable opportunity to be found before arranging a more comfortable position for him. However, this matter requires a special visit to explain to Mr. Su in person. So Su Chunliang came to the electrician class under the banner of rotation. The electrician class in the hospital was the workers' post, because Ma Hongmei specifically instructed that the head of the Science and Education Department, Pan Mingming, personally brought Su Chunliang to the electrician class and emphasized that this newcomer called the electrician class for rotation. The rotation of new employees is not uncommon, but the rotation of electrical work shifts is a groundbreaking experience. The electrical work shift is an inconspicuous small department in the hospital, with 8 employees divided into 4 shifts. They usually work 24 hours a day and rest 72 hours a day. The hospital also turns a blind eye to their behavior. The only one majoring in electrical engineering is the class monitor Jia Xuegong, while the other 7 are transferred within the hospital. They cannot do any high-tech work, and their main daily work is nothing more than changing a light bulb or pulling an electric switch. When faced with complex work, they basically seek external assistance. Today is class monitor Jia Xuegong and Xiao Feng on duty. When Pan Mingming brought Su Chunliang over, the two were studying stocks. In Changxing, they belong to the lower class, and their income cannot be compared to that of medical staff. Fortunately, they have plenty of spare time, and when they take turns, they will do some part-time jobs to support their families. Xiao Feng usually delivers takeout, while Jia Xuegong runs his own braised vegetable shop. Even if on duty, most of the time there are no tasks, and idle time is either trading stocks or blowing water. After Pan Mingming left, Jia Xuegong introduced Su Chunliang to the situation of the electrician class. Su Chunliang's arrival broke the previous balance and was somewhat difficult to arrange. He temporarily arranged for Su Chunliang to work a regular day shift and rest normally on weekends. Before leaving, Pan Mingming specifically called Jia Xuegong aside and politely told him that Su Chunliang had a relationship with Dean Gao, in order to avoid being bullied by the electrician class. At this point in his speech, Jia Xuegong couldn't help but understand, so he didn't dare to arrange any work for Su Chunliang. He didn't even bother Su Chunliang with the small things that newcomers should do, such as serving tea and pouring water. The rotation of the electrician class is like a horse lantern, and everyone's focus is not on work, because we all know that there is someone above Su Chunliang who will leave in a few days, and no one should make trouble or offend. Su Chunliang's main task now is to answer the phone. Most of the phone content is that the lights of a certain department are broken, and the department has tripped. Basically, it's about brewing a cup of tea and sitting by the phone for a day. Su Chunliang was also idle, actively requesting to work with him. Usually when going out to work, one person carries tools and the other carries a ladder. With Su Chunliang, class monitor Jia Xuegong can only hold a lamp. As a class monitor, one should lead by example and feel embarrassed to be empty-handed. In the past few days, seeing old readers returning one after another, Octopus was very moved. I slowly wrote this book, and as you read it slowly, I seem to have regained the feeling of writing from the beginning. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Ghosts Fear Evil Men. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Ghosts Fear Evil Men. The department that needs to replace the light tube this time is the medical department. The medical office of Changxing Hospital is located on the 3rd floor of the administrative office building. Director Zhou Wenbin is a fellow villager of Dean Gu and a cadre promoted by Gu Hui. In everyone's eyes, he is Gu's legitimate lineage. Zhou Wenbin used to be a thoracic surgeon and deputy chief physician, and has only been the director of the medical department for half a year. Abandoning the medical profession and entering politics was not due to the leadership's proactive promotion. The fundamental reason was that he knew that the competition department director had no hope and was unwilling to be subordinate to others. Therefore, he took the initiative to privately communicate with the Dean Gu Hui, who arranged for him to be in the medical department due to his hometown affection. Zhou Wenbin has a slight squint, unclear speech, weak temperament, and no outstanding social relationships. He was able to successfully become the director of the medical department thanks to the help of his fellow villagers. When he first took office, he did find satisfaction in his position as an official, but not long after, he realized that the position of director of the medical department was not something that ordinary people could do well. When I was a doctor in the past, I thought that the medical department was just a mediocre department. Although it was responsible for medical management, in reality, it mainly dealt with medical disputes and lawsuits. After all, I was not a party involved, so I just needed to handle it properly. I could establish a buffer zone between the doctors and patients involved, which could be resolved privately through coordination. The hospital paid for it, but the court could not solve it. Winning a lawsuit was certainly gratifying, but if I lost, the hospital still paid for it. He soon realized that this department was not that simple. Most of the patients who came to complain had hot temper and were aggressive. In the eyes of the rights defenders, anyone in the hospital was their sworn enemy, and coming over was to provoke criticism. In the process of coordination, getting beaten and scolded is a common occurrence. The most frustrating thing is that the patient doesn't understand and just pays back. Even the doctors in our hospital don't understand and often think that they haven't played a role in protecting medical staff. They are too weak towards the patient, and even say that their arms are turned outward, and they are not human inside or outside. After working for half a year, Zhou Wenbin finally found some tricks. The medical department is the gathering point of doctor-patient conflicts, and a fire at the city gate can harm the fish in the pond. As long as he works here for a day, he will be affected. The best way to reduce being affected is to try to appear as little as possible, so Zhou Wenbin began to reduce his time in the hospital. Even if he stayed in the hospital, he tried to avoid being in the office as much as possible. There are endless excuses for the person in charge to leave their post, and the staff below are not so lucky. Chen Guangming and Qing Xiaohong, who are left behind, have to bear the strong firepower of the rights defenders. Being scolded is light, and one may even get beaten. Chen Guangming had 2 intense conflicts with someone before the end of this month, which greatly affected his mood. He is already looking for connections and applying for a transfer. Today is Friday, and there is a weekly meeting in the afternoon, so Zhou Wenbin didn't leave. He was planning to review the documents he had accumulated for a week, but unfortunately, the light tube was broken and kept flashing above his head. The efficiency of the electrician class is really low, and it took half an hour to call the repair hotline to see the workers coming over. Xiao Feng, who was walking in front, carried a tool kit, followed by Su Chunliang, who was carrying a ladder, and the class monitor Jia Shuigong, who was walking at the end, holding 2 light tubes in his hand. Seeing their calm and composed demeanor, Zhou Wenbin cursed inwardly, thinking that it would take 3 people to change the light tube. The reason why Changxing Hospital couldn't develop was because it had raised too many idle people. Jia Shuigong smiled at Zhou Wenbin and took the initiative to call out Director Zhou. Zhou Wenbin ignored him, and Jia Shuigong was met with disappointment. He awkwardly lowered his head. In the hospital, these logistics workers were third-class citizens with low income, low status, and no sense of existence. Su Chunliang could clearly see from the side that in this era, the slogan of equality for all was loudly shouted, but in fact, it was still divided into 3, 6, and 9 levels. Although Zhou Wenbin was as proud as 2, 5, or 8,000 in front of them, he immediately bowed to those who were older than him, obedient as a turtle grandson. Jia Xuegong instructed him to put up the ladder. Su Chunliang was responsible for helping the ladder, and Xiao Feng climbed up to change the light tube. Unfortunately, at this moment, he had a stomachache and said he needed to go to the restroom before work. Zhou Wenbin couldn't hold on to the fire anymore and said, "Why do we have to change the light tube? Lazy donkeys make a lot of fuss. If you can do it, just do it. If you can't, get out of here." Xiao Feng's face turned red from being scolded, but he had 3 anxieties. He couldn't hold back and turned around to charge outside. Jia Xuegong dared not speak up, but Su Chunliang couldn't bear to listen anymore. "Your medical department is really in charge, controlling the sky, the earth, and even defecating and farting." The 2 staff members of the medical department couldn't help but laugh at what he said. With a smile from his subordinate, Zhou Wenbin couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He pointed at Su Chunliang and said, "Who are you? How do you talk? Believe it or not, I'll call your department head over." Jia Xuegong tried his best to squeeze Su Chunliang's eyes. "This kid doesn't know where the sky and earth are. He is at the department level and in the middle of the hospital. It's not something that we small workers can afford to offend." Fortunately, someone came in at this moment, diverting Zhou Wenbin's attention. 3 strong men came in from outside. The leader shaved the head of the pot, had a broad and round waist, a large gold chain hanging from his thick neck, and his arms were tattooed with colorful tattoos. The black tight vest outlined some exaggerated chest muscles, and he looked like a social person. As soon as he entered the door, he shouted, "Director Zhou, it's really difficult to meet you." Zhou Wenbin was originally going to ask Su Chunliang for help, but when he saw these 3 unwelcome guests, his face turned pale. Chen Guangming and Chen Xiaohong both showed signs of fear. The person they came from was named Wang Dalai, a famous thug in the northern district. His father was hospitalized for prostate enlargement 2 years ago and underwent an electric resection surgery, but the postoperative results were not ideal. The doctor explained the possible postoperative conditions clearly before the surgery, and they also signed a consent form. After the surgery, Wang Dalai started a crazy rights protection mode, insisting that it was a surgical accident and demanding compensation from the hospital. The medical department also negotiated with him many times, but reluctantly agreed to give him a certain amount of compensation. However, the amount given by the hospital was too far from Wang Dalai's requirements, and he dared to ask for this product. The lion demanded 1 million directly. Since the 2 sides couldn't reach an agreement, the hospital suggested that he go to court to sue. In this situation, after being punished by the court, the compensation may not be as good as the hospital's compensation. In a fit of anger, Wang Dalai hit Chen Guangming, and he was also detained by the police for causing trouble. Unfortunately, during his detention, his father passed away, and Wang Dalai blamed all the responsibility on the hospital. Now, there is a small disturbance every 3 days and a big disturbance every 5 days, and the claim amount has also increased to 2 million. He is now much more cunning and won't take action easily. He is constantly trying to disgust you. Zhou Wenbin's head suddenly turned big when he saw him, and he forced out a stiff smile and said, "Delay, how come you're free today?" Wang Dalai sat next to him and crossed his legs, saying, "I'm alone. Unlike Director Zhou, who manages a lot of things every day and has free time, how can I solve my dad's problems?" Zhou Wenbin accompanied him with a smile and said, "Didn't I tell you last time? Are you still satisfied with that amount?" The hospital was also annoyed by this rolling knife meat, and finally decided to compensate him with 50,000 yuan in one lump sum, hoping to settle the matter. Wang Dalai tilted his mouth and spat thick phlegm on the ground, saying, "Where are you sending beggars? My father's life is worth 50,000 yuan. Think to himself, Director Zhou. If your father is killed by someone, are you willing to give 50,000 yuan? Zhou Wenbin cursed inwardly, how can he speak? If I have beaten you, I have to beat you, and the other party's arrogance has also aroused his anger. Our hospital has made significant concessions. If you are still not satisfied, you can go to court to sue. Xiao Te used the court to scare me. Who wouldn't know that your officials protect each other and save lives? If it weren't for your surgical accident, my dad would still be alive and well now. Your father's situation has been assessed by experts, and the results show that there were no errors in the surgery. The poor prognosis is related to personal physique, and his death has nothing to do with prostate surgery. You fart. It's not your operation that hurt my father's vitality. My father can live at least 100 years old. Don't let his mother fool me here. Zhou Wenbin's face turned red with anger and he said, Wang Dalai, if you keep bothering and pestering me, I'll call the security guard. Wang Dalai sneered and said, You're really shouting. He got up and approached Zhou Wenbin. Zhou Wenbin felt scared from the bottom of his heart and trembled, saying, What do you want to do? This is the hospital, you. Don't mess around. Qing Xiaohong was trembling with fear. Chen Guanming picked up the phone and wanted to call for security. However, Wang Dalai's accomplice slapped the phone and pressed it down, making a fist gesture to hit Chen Guanming. Chen Guanming was so scared that he quickly retreated, lost his balance, and sat on the ground. In front of so many subordinates, Zhou Wenbin could only puff up his face and pretend to be fat, and loudly said, Now is a rule of law society. Wang Dalai smiled and said, Who doesn't know it's a rule of law society? Why did I break the law? Did I kill or set fire? I'm here to talk to you. Your Changxing hospital is reckless and has killed my father. The hatred of killing my father is unforgettable. I'm not afraid to argue anywhere. Xiao Feng returned from the restroom and was so scared that he didn't dare to come in. He secretly called the security department outside. Jia Shuigong climbed up the ladder. He was just an electrician, and the medical affairs had nothing to do with him. He just didn't see anything and didn't dare or want to provoke him. Zhou Wenbin was not a good person, and he deserved to eat his food. The person in charge of pulling the power switch was Su Chunliang. He reached out and immediately pulled down the main switch. Today is a cloudy day, and when the power switch was pulled, all the indoor lights went out, just like in the evening. Now everyone's gaze was focused on Su Chunliang. Wang Dalai glared angrily at Su Chunliang and said, Fool, who specifically asked you to turn off the lights? Su Chunliang said, What's bothering you when I turn off the lights? Is it related to me turning off the lights when your father dies? The doctor-patient disputes mentioned in the article are all reflected in the real society, and octopuses have undergone artistic reprocessing. Please do not take the corresponding seats. The new book has just opened, please check in more. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. 2 Spiders. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 2 Spiders. Wang Dalai became angry upon hearing this and said, Fuck you, how can you talk? Su Chunliang had no intention of meddling in Zhou Wenbin's affairs, but Wang Dalai scolded him and couldn't bear it. From the beginning, he saw clearly that Wang Dalai and these 3 people were all scoundrels. The 3 members of the medical department are too cowardly. They all made a scene at their doorstep and swallowed their anger. When I was the leader of the 5 Poisons sect, who dared to break into my main altar, I would let him experience the pain of 10,000 snakes devouring his body. Su Chunliang pursed his lips and said, The grudges of killing one's father are irreconcilable. There are both grievances and debts. Whoever killed your father, you should go and kill him. What kind of prestige are you playing here? Why? Dare not go. You coward, unfilial son. How can you still have the face to live in this world? Wang Dalai roared and rushed forward. He was previously arrested for assaulting someone, but now he really doesn't have the courage to do so in public. Don't be fooled by his fierce upward momentum, which is to scare Su Chunliang. But he chose the wrong object. Just as he rushed toward Su Chunliang, something suddenly fell from the air. Wang Dalai was startled, but a spider the size of a thumb cap fell straight down and happened to land on his face. Pop! Su Chunliang slapped him hard in the face with a big mouth, causing stars to appear in front of him. This slap stunned everyone. First of all, Jia Shuigong couldn't understand. Is the matter with the medical department related to you, Su Chunliang? What's your problem? Zhou Wenbin shuddered. He didn't see clearly and thought that Wang Dalai had beaten Su Chunliang. He asked Chen Guangming to contact the security department quickly. Su Chunliang finished beating and raised his hand, with a flattened spider in his palm. This spider is highly poisonous. Wang Dalai's two accomplices saw him slapped in the face and quickly came over to help. Wang Dalai gritted his teeth and said, "I fought with you." Without saying anything sharp, he felt something strange on his face. Su Chunliang reminded, "There is one more." He didn't believe Su Chunliang's words, but he believed his companions. Two of them pointed to his face and said, "Big spider." Bumblebees. All the bumblebees came out. Wang Dalai saw it himself, and the spider had climbed to the tip of his nose. His body was pale yellow, and he wanted to reach out and pinch it. Su Chunliang reminded, "The yellow spider is extremely poisonous. If it bites you, you will go and serve your father." Wang Dalai, who had experienced such a scene, trembled and said, quickly, "Help me take it off." The two accomplices heard that it was toxic, and neither dared to take action easily. One of them suggested calling the police quickly. Although they usually hide from the police, the first thing that comes to mind when encountering trouble is the people's police. Su Chunliang deliberately sighed and said, "I'll repay you with kindness, and you'll repay me with kindness." He deliberately reached out and shook his hand in front of Wang Dalai, saying, "This is just male. Your face is female, and the toxicity of the female is even more severe. As long as it bites, the elephant will be ruined." Upon hearing him say this, everyone involuntarily took a step back. Wang Dalai said in fear, "Help me drive it away." Now, not to mention slapping Su Chunliang, he would be willing to slap him even 10 times. Su Chunliang said, "Don't move. As long as you don't move, it usually won't actively attack people." Wang Dalai said to himself, "I can't stand all the time." He trembled and said, quickly, "Beat it to death with the soles of his shoes." A colleague pulled off the character and Su Chunliang said, "When filming, be sure to control the force and be careful not to hit the venomous teeth into the skin and flesh. Be careful not to break the spider's yellow sac, which is filled with venom and insect eggs. Once it is hit, the venom will corrode the skin and flesh, visible deep in the bones, and the disfigurement is small. If the hatched little spider builds a nest on the face, burrows into your brain, and sucks on the brain, it will either die or go crazy." Wang Dalai was so scared that he almost burst into tears. "Don't move, report to the police. Report to the police quickly. If something happens to me, I won't be able to solve it for 3 million yuan. I can't." Su Chunliang said, "Do you have a life flower for 10 million? Look at how big your head is, why doesn't it have any brain inside?" At this moment, the head of the hospital's security department finally arrived with a group of security guards. They heard that someone had come to the medical office to cause trouble, but no one could have imagined this scene. Wang Dalai stood motionless like a sand sculpture, with a yellow buttock spider lying on his nose. "I heard that spiders are highly poisonous, and no one dares to act recklessly." Zhou Wenbin called the poisoning department and asked them to be prepared. If Wang Dalai is poisoned, they can be rescued in a timely manner. He has also studied biology and seen pictures of yellow-skinned spiders. However, this spider on Wang Dalai's face looks like a common spider no matter how it looks, not poisonous. Is it this little electrician who is exaggerating? Intentionally intimidating Wang Dalai? Su Chunliang smiled at Wang Dalai and said, "How about I help you?" Wang Dalai repeatedly agreed. What if you falsely accuse me of hitting you? Don't worry, even if you take action, I don't blame you. Wang Dalai fought hard and received another slap. If I help you, how can you thank me? I promise. I won't trouble your hospital again. 50,000 is 50,000. Wang Dalai still thinks about that money. In fact, he clearly knows that his father's death has nothing to do with Changxing, and there is no problem with the electrocautery surgery. It was he who deliberately caused trouble and wanted to extort more money. At this moment, the spider began to move again, crawling onto Wang Dalai's left face, and Su Chunliang suddenly took action. Pop! The slap was even harder than before, and Wang Dalai's burly body was pulled to a standstill, leaving a clear slap mark on each cheek. Su Chunliang displayed his spoils of war. 2 spiders, one male and one female, died in his palm. Although they were flattened, their bodies were intact and no venom had seeped out. Wang Dalai was slapped twice in front of everyone. Although he knew that Su Chunliang was helping him out, these 2 slaps landed firmly on his face, and he personally said he didn't blame him. Wang Dalai is also considered a somewhat famous thug in the northern district, and he has a face in front of others. He was so embarrassed that he hung his head down and pushed away the security guard without saying a word. At this moment, Jia Shuigong replaced the light tube, and Su Chunliang pushed the air switch up, creating a bright atmosphere in the office. Zhou Wenbin told the head of the security department, Yi Xiandong, about the process of the incident. He was quite dissatisfied with the efficiency of the security department's work. Security guards were everywhere when there was nothing to do, but when something happened, they couldn't find anyone. In fact, these security guards are all aware of Wang Dalai's notorious reputation. They earn such a small salary every month, and no one needs to get into trouble. Although their responsibilities lie in coming, they deliberately slow down the pace. After the storm subsided, Zhou Wenbin remembered that it seemed like he should say thank you to that young man. Su Chunliang and Xiao Feng packed their tools and left first, while Jia Shuigong stayed and waited for Zhou Wenbin to sign and confirm on the dispatch order. Zhou Wenbin inquired with Jia Shuigong and found out that Su Chunliang was a newcomer who only came to the hospital this year. He was young and energetic, and with a little social experience, he wouldn't stand out. Su Chunliang casually threw the 2 spiders that had been beaten to death onto the ground. Zhou Wenbin specifically used Dunyang to identify it as an ordinary spider, which was not poisonous at all. It was indeed deceiving Wang Dalai. It seems that this young man is really brave and cunning, deceiving Wang Dalai into not being able to find the north, and even publicly slapping him with 2 big mouths. At the end of the hospital's weekly meeting in the afternoon, Ma Hongmei, the head of the Human Resources Department, specifically approached Zhou Wenbin and informed him that Chen Guangming would be transferred to the Infection Department due to work needs. Upon hearing this news, Zhou Wenbin felt a bit depressed. As soon as Xiao Chen left, there were only 2 people left in the medical office. Cheng Xiaohong was a girl and couldn't let her charge in front, which meant that there was no one to share the firepower in front of him. In the future, wouldn't he have to face the enemy's artillery fire and a miserable life? Zhou Wenbin couldn't help but complain, before I came to the medical department, there were 5 people in the department. 2 of them were dismissed and 1 was transferred away, and now another has been transferred away. Is all this work just for the 2 of us? Ma Hongmei smiled and said, we all know you work hard, but if young people want to move forward, they can't stop them. Zhou Wenbin did not feel that the position of the infectious disease department could be ranked above the medical department. He was clear that Chen Guangming was scared out of his wits, and no young person wanted to live in fear. Thinking about the past 6 months since coming to the medical department, Chen Guangming has suffered a lot of injustice. Last time, he couldn't hold back his anger and argued with the patient's family, resulting in criticism from the hospital. It was also that injustice that strengthened Chen Guangming's idea of being transferred. Zhou Wenbin said, Chief Ma, you also know the situation with the medical department. There are many contradictions, heavy workload, and high pressure. It's impossible for us two to work alone to operate normally. The person who transferred me can do it, but I must add new personnel, otherwise I will never agree. Director Zhou, it's not my intention to assign someone to you. You need to report this to the leader. She can't say which leader, although she is the head of the personnel department, she can only be a specific executor of work in the hospital, and the personnel power is really not in her hands. Why do I need to report to the leader? It's not because the leader transferred me away. Zhou Wenbin knew very well that he couldn't stop it at all. Now, saying so is nothing but complaining. At this moment, her phone rang and she smiled at Zhou Wenbin, asking him to wait a moment. The phone was called by Zhu Mingyuan, the director of the traditional Chinese medicine department. As soon as it was connected, Zhu Mingyuan roared on the other end of the phone, "Chief Ma, what do you mean? Why did you force a high school student into our department? No. What's wrong? Does his staffing fall under our traditional Chinese medicine department? Apart from our department staffing, will future expenses also have to be covered by us?" Ma Hongmei sighed inwardly. Zhu Mingyuan was notorious for being smelly and hard, and he was in a fit of anger. She could only perfunctorily say, "Director Zhu, don't worry, I'm not sure about this matter, maybe they made a mistake. I'll help you investigate now. I'll figure out the situation and get back to you right away." Zhu Mingyuan stubbornly said, "How do you do your job? Get to know immediately. This kind of idle relationship is something we don't want to give to anyone we like." Ma Hongmei hung up the phone and cursed inwardly, relying on the old man to sell her old age. When others eat idle food, aren't you one to eat idle food? How much benefit has your traditional Chinese medicine department created for the hospital? Retaining the traditional Chinese medicine clinic was just a symbolic significance, and she was even more aware that Zhu Mingyuan was so excited because Su Chunliang's establishment touched his interests. The traditional Chinese medicine department has always been in a state of shortage, and every month one can naturally eat short positions. Su Chunliang's preparation touched his cheese, and it is normal for Zhu Mingyuan, who values wealth as his life, to become angry. Ma Hongmei could have kicked the ball to Vice Dean Gao Xinhua. Despite Zhu Mingyuan's fierce shouting, if the hospital gives a death order, he will have to comply in the end. However, Ma Hongmei has a good personal relationship with Gao Xinhua. If it's not necessary, she still doesn't want to trouble him. She hung up the phone and saw Zhou Wenbin with the same angry expression, suddenly having an idea in her heart. One refused to accept and the other refused to let go. If Su Chunliang were arranged to the medical department, it would not be a win-win situation, and their problems would not have been solved. Ma Hongmei had an idea in her heart and said to Zhou Wenbin, "I have a suitable candidate here. This is a new employee who just came to our hospital this year." Upon hearing this, Zhou Wenbin immediately shook his head like a tambourine and said, "No, the work of the medical department requires relevant work experience, at least some clinical experience. Newcomers cannot do it. This young man is very outstanding, very tall and good-looking." Su Chunliang did not have many shining points on his body, and he could only praise his appearance. What's the use of being tall and handsome? I'm not hiring security guards. Zhou Wenbin actually wanted a few security guards to stay at the medical office, at least to deter the families of patients who came to cause trouble. Experience is not yet cultivated through nurture. This young man's name is Su Chunliang, quite clever. What? Ma Hongmei repeated Su Chunliang's name again, and Zhou Wenbin immediately matched up with the young man in the electrician class. There are not so many hospitals with the same name, let alone this name is not ordinary. He said he needs to consider and give her a response no later than tomorrow. Back at the medical office, before entering the door, Cheng Xiaohong smelled a pungent smell of pesticide. Cheng Xiaohong was wearing a mask to disinfection and sterilization inside. Chen Guangming hid outside because he couldn't stand the smell. Seeing Zhou Wenbin, he smiled and said, "Director Zhou, Cheng is afraid of spiders, so he sprayed some medicine." Zhou Wenbin nodded, somewhat puzzled. He had been in this office for so long and had never seen a spider before. Recalling the scene of Su Chunliang fighting spiders, the more I thought about it, the more I felt that he was taking the opportunity to slap Wang Dalai. This kid is also mentally agile enough, and what's rare is his courage. If it were someone else, they wouldn't dare to take action against Wang Dalai. Chen Guangming took out a box of cigarettes and handed them to Zhou Wenbin, secretly handling the job transfer behind Zhou Wenbin's back, feeling somewhat guilty. Zhou Wenbin waved his hand and said he didn't need it. He was still thinking about Su Chunliang's situation. A newborn calf is not afraid of tigers, and the department may lack such a person. Looking at Chen Guangming in front of him, he silently compared himself with Su Chunliang in his heart. People are more dead than people, and goods are more discarded than goods. He made a decision immediately after this comparison. In reality, medical services play a very important role in hospitals. Under the leadership of the dean or vice dean, the director of the medical department organizes and implements the medical and preventive healthcare work of the entire hospital, and many people have successfully promoted to vice dean or dean. New book release, seeking support. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Mistakes of theft cases. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Mistakes of theft cases. It has been almost a month since the Spring Festival Hall relocated to its new location, but the golden signboard has yet to be hung. Some old patients in the past were approached through various means, and Su Changshan did not reject them because there was no deliberate promotion, and the source of the disease was reduced compared to the past. The old man clearly lost his previous morale, probably because his grandson's job was settled and he lost the motivation to strive. Su Chunliang quickly adapted to the life of office workers, with a relaxed work schedule. In addition to work, he rarely goes out, and whenever he has time, he reads books and goes online, striving to fully understand this era as soon as possible. Su Changshan originally hoped that his grandson could actively propose to learn medicine from him, but Su Chunliang had no intention of doing so. He should have copied the secret recipe, and he did not resist. His handwriting was extremely beautiful with a brush. Su Changshan couldn't bear to ask about his work because Gao Xinhua had specifically communicated with him, and Su Changshan knew that his grandson was currently in the electrician class. According to Gao Xinhua, people often face shame before being brave, and only when they see the gap can they have motivation. Su Changshan originally hoped that his grandson would recognize this, but seeing him work for almost half a month, it seems that he has adapted to this kind of life, and at least for now, he has not found any ambition from him. Su Changshan began to accept reality. In fact, most people in this world are ordinary, and grandchildren are not people who do big things. Being ordinary and indifferent is true. Having a stable job, finding a knowledgeable and reasonable wife, giving birth to a pair of lovely babies, can also be considered a fulfilling life. Su Chunliang returns home on time every day after work and sees his grandfather looking at the big tree outside the door. The old man found a newly built beehive on the tree, and dozens of wasps were busy building their nests. From the appearance of the wasps alone, Su Changshan couldn't distinguish whether it was the bee colony at the entrance. After all, the fire department had already removed the large beehive under the eaves of the past Spring Festival Hall. Su Chunliang called out to his grandfather and handed him half of the freshly chopped deer ghee oil scalded duck, which the old man loved. Su Changshan took the oil-hot duck and said, "Chunliang, take a look. Is this the bee colony that used to be at our doorstep?" "Yes." "Are you so sure?" Su Chuanxin said, "Of course I am certain. This bee colony was brought in by me. Although my martial arts skills have been greatly reduced, my ability to attract bees and butterflies has not weakened." He smiled and said, "Mr. Su has excellent medical skills and noble medical ethics. Wasps are also living beings and understand the principle of choosing neighbors to live in. Su Changshan laughed heartily and said, "When did you learn to speak so well? I'll open a bottle of good wine tonight and let's have a few drinks." Su Chunliang told his grandfather that he couldn't do it tonight because he promised Yuli. Yuli invited him to dinner 3 days ago, saying that he wanted to thank him for saving his life. In addition to him, he also invited Lu Qi and Li Zhong, who were on the scene that day. Su Changshan is glad to see his grandson go out and socialize more. Staying at home all day is not a problem. From the current situation, the decision to send him to work at Changxing Hospital is absolutely right. The place where Yuli treated her guests at night was Yipingju on Zhuangyuan Street, an old street in the center of Dongzhou. The street was not wide and was lined with many ancient buildings from the Ming and Qing dynasties. One of the households was said to have won the title of Zhuangyuan, and the ancient street was named after it. The city originally planned to develop this place into a landmark tourist attraction, but due to poor design, it was made out of place and subsequent investment was not ideal. At most, this street is filled with merchants selling jade, mixed with several tea houses and restaurants. Dongzhou is not a tourist city and there are not many tourists from other places. Yipingju is located diagonally opposite the Zhuangyuan mansion and is an elegantly decorated private restaurant. Yuli has also put in some effort to choose this place. Lu Qi and Li Zhong are police officers who refuse to treat them to meals from the bottom of their hearts. However, Yuli learned that Li Zhong's sister, Li Lingyun, is the head nurse of the orthopedics department at Changxing Hospital, and her sister, Umo, is also the deputy director of the gynecology department. Umo stepped forward, and Li Lingyun was responsible for contacting them. The bureau was successfully organized. Choosing a first-class residence is because you have a liking for the tranquil environment here, which saves people from being confused. After all, the identities of Lu Qi and Li Zhong make it inconvenient for them to openly invite guests. Su Chunliang was the latest to arrive. It was scheduled for 6:30 p.m. and he arrived on time. A few people in the private room were beating beaten eggs. Yuli watched the battle from the side and saw Su Chunliang come in. He greeted him with a smile and said, "Xiao Su, we're waiting for you." Su Chunliang said, "I came over, everyone has been waiting for a long time." Two police officers, Su Chunliang, had met before. It was the first time he had seen Umo and Li Lingyun, and he greeted each other with a smile. A few people were all addicted to playing cards. After playing this game, they got up and met Su Chunliang. Umo and Yuli look very similar, and she is also very famous at Changxing Hospital. She is the deputy director of gynecology and the leader of the discipline. She took the initiative to reach out and shake hands with Su Chunliang, saying, "Our hospital. Why haven't we seen you before?" Su Chunliang smiled and said, "I only went to the hospital this month." Li Lingyun also leaned in and said, "Xiao Su, you are a talented person. Do you have any partners? There are many beautiful little nurses in our department. She is known for her love of matchmaking." Su Chunliang expressed his intention to start a business first and then start a family, politely declining her offer. Li Lingyun chuckled and said, "I have great ambitions. Which subject did I study?" "Currently in the electrician class." Upon hearing that it was a worker, Li Lingyun suddenly lost her enthusiasm. It wasn't that she was snobbish. How many nurses in the hospital wanted to date the workers? The young man is talented and elegant, but it's a pity. Just now, I thought he had great ambitions, but now I think he is talented and talented. What kind of job does an ordinary electrician have? Lu Qi came over and patted Su Chunliang's shoulder, and Su Chunliang called out "Brother Lu." Lu Qi introduced Su Chunliang again, mainly to tell everyone the identity of the young master of Su Chunliang's revival hall. Umo and Li Lingyun, as employees of Changxing Hospital, naturally knew about Huichuntang, which led them to realize that Huichuntang was surnamed Su. There is no impermeable wall in the world, and the news of the demolition of the Spring Festival Hall has spread throughout Changxing Hospital in the past 2 days. It is known that the hospital will compensate Mr. Su with 6 million yuan in one lump sum for the smooth demolition. Not many people know about arranging work for Su Chunliang. 6 million yuan is a considerable wealth for the people of Jiangqing, let alone Su Changshan, who has been practicing medicine for many years. The Huichun Hall has always been bustling, and this old man has a wealth of at least tens of millions. A person, regardless of their education or occupation, once they have a good family background, a halo will be shrouded in the eyes of many people. In Li Lingyun's eyes, Su Chunliang has become a handsome and wealthy man. Mr. Su is your grandfather. I should have seen you before, but he was not so tall at that time, and he was still a child. Li Lingyun did not exaggerate, the Su Chunliang in her memory is just like this. Su Chunliang also searched his memory and indeed met her, possessing the memory of her going to the Spring Festival Hall for consultation. Do you still remember me? Su Chunliang nodded and said, remember, Nurse Li, you came to the Spring Festival Hall last month to get an injection for menstrual pain. One sentence made Li Lingyun blush. How could this kid speak without restraint? Although everyone is a medical worker, we can't speak out recklessly. Lu Qi didn't hold back when he heard this, poop. A mouthful of water sprayed out, but fortunately I turned around in time and didn't spray it on someone else's face. Li Zhongxin said, how does this kid talk? Expose my sister's privacy in public. Yu Li was very good at getting things done and smiled, Xiao Su, you're really mischievous. When you work in the hospital, be careful when you talk. Don't talk about professional issues and you come back for dinner. I can't stand that. One sentence resolved the embarrassment. Yuemo asked the shopkeeper to start the meal immediately. She glanced at Li Lingyun and felt a bit unhappy. I am your best friend and also a gynecological expert in our hospital. If you don't come to me for menstrual cramps, you will go to an old man instead. Don't you believe in my medical skills? Which traditional Chinese medicine can compare to Western medicine in treating diseases? After the drinks and dishes were served, everyone drank 3 glasses of wine first, and then Yu Li toasted each of the 3 benefactors one by one. That day, she was very scared and fainted twice in the middle. I can't remember the situation at that time clearly, only knowing that it was the 3 of them who saved her. Lu Qi said that what should be truly thanked was Su Chunliang. If it weren't for him at that time, neither he nor Li Zhong could have dealt with those 2 big snakes. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Su Chunliang. Su Chunliang had actually told Lu Qi not to mention his own rescue efforts, but Lu Qi couldn't do anything to falsely claim credit. Finally, he publicly revealed the truth. Helping the citizens was originally the responsibility of the police, and the bureau verbally praised Lu Qi and Li Zhong. Although it was published in the newspaper that day, it quickly lost its popularity. Li Zhongdao said, Xiao Su, why did those 2 snakes see you so obedient at that time? They didn't dare to resist. Did your Spring Festival Hall have a snake training technique? Su Chunliang smiled and said, there's no secret technique. Our ancestors in the Su family were traditional Chinese medicine. In the past, traditional Chinese medicine often went up the mountain to collect medicine, and encountering snakes and insects was a common occurrence. In order to ensure our own safety, we developed a method to drive away snakes and insects. Yu Li said, I'm afraid of snakes the most. Can you share it with me? They are ancestral secret formulas, so I can't just tell you casually. There was a hint of disdain in Yumo's tone, as she had never been fond of traditional Chinese medicine. Su Chunliang said, actually, it's not a secret. The main ingredient is sulfur powder, and snakes and insects usually fear this taste. Xionghuang wine is also good. I grew up in the Spring Festival Hall and carried a hint of medicinal smell on my body, so snakes and insects usually don't approach me. This explanation is also reasonable. Lu Qi recalled for a moment that he didn't seem to smell any pungent odor when driving the snake that day. Li Lingyun said, "Xiao Su, why did you come to Changxing? It would be great to learn traditional Chinese medicine with your grandfather and inherit the Spring Festival Hall." "I'm not very interested in studying medicine." Su Chunliang didn't tell the truth. Although his grandfather is one of the top Chinese medical experts in Dongzhou, his cultivation in the medical field cannot be compared to his own. Su Chunliang has a great tolerance for alcohol and does not refuse visitors. He drank several glasses with everyone, but showed no signs of alcohol. After drinking a few glasses of alcohol, Li Lingyun's habit of being a matchmaker has recurred. He found a photo of the nurse in the department on his phone and showed it to Su Chunliang. If he felt interested, he could arrange for them to meet and chat on WeChat first. Su Chunliang politely declined, not because he was not interested in women, but because he is now practicing the Tongtian Baodian again. In the past, when he obtained the Tongtian Baodian, he was no longer in his child's body, so his cultivation stopped in the triple realm. Although this calamity cleared his internal strength to zero, it gave him a pure child's body, built the foundation of pure yang, broke through the ninth realm, shattered the void, and there is a high possibility of achieving great divine skills. The dinner was enjoyable. Initially, Su Chunliang thought that Yu Li was simply expressing gratitude. During the meal, he found out that there was also a theft case that day. Now, Lu Qi is in charge of this case. Today, Yu Li organized the team to express gratitude and urged Lu Qi to help solve the case as soon as possible. After the dinner, Lu Qi called an express car and took Su Chunliang back on the way. After getting on the car, Su Chunliang handed him 300 yuan. Grandpa knew that he was having dinner with Lu Qi and specifically instructed him to return the money to Lu Qi. Lu Qi reluctantly accepted it and talked about catching snakes that day. He told Su Chunliang that they were only focused on catching snakes that day, and later found that the warehouse in the business hall had lost 15 high-end mobile phones worth more than 100,000 yuan. The police believe that the appearance of those two snakes in the business hall was not accidental, but rather to divert attention and steal calmly. But after investigating the surveillance cameras outside the store, no suspicious individuals were found. Lu Qi couldn't figure out how the thief stole 15 mobile phones without realizing it. After listening to him finish speaking, Su Chunliang reminded him, could these two snakes have stolen those phones? Such a big snake can easily swallow a watermelon, let alone a phone. It's unlikely, but a mobile phone is not something delicious. Why would a cucumber snake swallow it? Su Chunliang's speculation has exceeded Lu Qi's imagination. What if these two snakes were artificially domesticated and specifically used for theft? Lu Qi looked at Su Chunliang in surprise. Don't look at me, I have nothing to do with this matter. Suddenly realizing that September has arrived, I posted a chapter to express my attitude and also asked for a monthly pass to test how much mass base the old octopus still has. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Snake Shadow Doubts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Snake Shadow Doubts. Lu Qi said he had never doubted him. He was very clear that if it weren't for Su Chunliang that day, he might have been strangled by that big snake. He just couldn't figure out who would have the ability to make those two big snakes obedient and help him carry out the theft. Su Chunliang remembered that when Lu Qi came to the store to buy ointments, he had long suspected himself, so he found an excuse to come to the revival hall to investigate. In fact, this can also be understood. After all, there are not many people who can make the two big snakes obediently. It's only because of my negligence at the time, and I didn't expect there to be another case behind it. The person who manipulated this matter must be very familiar with the process of handling such an event. I replayed the scene in my mind, where the female snake had a slightly swollen belly. The male snake should have been responsible for intimidating the crowd and diverting attention. After everyone was scared and fled the specialty store, the female snake calmly entered the warehouse from the ventilation and swallowed her phone one by one. Originally, the two snakes had a clear division of labor, and the female snake responsible for theft should have retreated first. However, Lu Qi and Li Zhong's timely alarm threatened the safety of the male snake, and the female snake on the way to escape appeared and attacked Lu Qi. From then on, the plan had deviated from the control of the snake tamer. After Su Chunliang stepped forward, the direction of the matter completely changed. Su Chunliang told Lu Qi that generally speaking, Wang Jinshi is not a pika eater and will not voluntarily swallow her phone. There must be someone manipulating her behind the scenes, and she is very interested in the whereabouts of the two snakes. Who did the police ultimately hand over those two snakes to? Who is responsible for releasing the animals? These were all things that Lu Qi had not considered before. Su Chunliang's reminder made him realize that this case was more complex than he had imagined. Usually, such incidents were handled by the fire department as an emergency, and they would arrange specialized snake hunters. The captured animals would be handed over to the relevant departments of the Forestry Bureau for processing. After so long, those two snakes should have returned to the mountains and forests, and this case is likely to be unsolvable. Su Chunliang's gaze turned towards the outside of the car window, and the colorful neon lights on the roadside rendered this world in a strange and varied way. It seemed that this world was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Early on Saturday morning, Su Chunliang received a phone call from Lu Qi asking if there was anything wrong, asking him to go to the place where the Forestry Bureau released the animals. After all, Su Chunliang was very familiar with the habits of snakes and insects, which may be helpful for the case. Su Chunliang had nothing to do with rest anyway, so he agreed. Half an hour later, Lu Qi and Li Zhong drove a police car to the door to pick him up. Li Zhong was responsible for driving, while Lu Qi accompanied Su Chunliang to sit in the back. Lu Qi told Su Chunliang about the follow-up of the two king snakes. On that day, after Su Chunliang subdued the two large snakes, they handed over the two captured snakes to the Municipal Forestry Bureau. At that time, there was also a professional snake catcher named Fan Yajun who was a staff member of the Forestry Bureau. After conducting routine physical examinations for the two golden snakes, he sent them to the Qinglongshan Nature Reserve for release on the same day. Does he have any problems? Lu Qi shook his head and said, "This man has a good reputation in the company. He works hard and has been rated as a municipal model worker for many times. We cannot just look at the surface in everything. He has evidence of being absent, and it wasn't him alone who went to release him that day. We also investigated his itinerary for those days and didn't find any suspicious points." Su Chunliang said, "Perhaps it was a gang that committed the crime." Li Zhong, who was driving ahead, couldn't help but laugh and said, "Xiao Su, you shouldn't have studied medicine. You should have become a police officer." Lu Qi didn't find it funny. Su Chunliang's words were not unreasonable. The handling of the incident appeared to be following the process, but after investigation, some unusual things were discovered, such as being sent to the protected area for release on the same day. Usually, the captured wild animals need to be artificially raised for several days, and only after confirming their normal physical condition can they be released into the wild. From this alone, it is not easy to suspect that Fan Yajun has a problem. The release was approved by the Forestry Bureau, and it was not Fan Yajun alone who went to Qinglongshan for release. There were a total of 3 employees who went with him, and there was a dedicated person handing over the release in the Qinglongshan Nature Reserve. After the release was completed, the 4 members of the Forestry Bureau immediately returned. Since that day, no relevant personnel have left the city. Li Zhong believes that going to the release scene is meaningless. It has been so many days now, and the 2 snakes have gone somewhere. He also doesn't believe that Wang Jinshi swallowed her phone and can still pull it out completely. But Lu Qi had to make this trip, so as a partner, he had to accompany him. Qinglong Mountain is 25 kilometers away from the urban area of Dongzhou, with an altitude of over 400 meters. It can be considered a mountain in Pingjiang province, which is mainly composed of plains. They followed the map navigation and found the office of Qinglongshan Nature Reserve. They had already contacted in advance, and the forest ranger Zhou Meng who participated in the release activity that day was already waiting there. Seeing the police car approaching, he quickly welcomed it out. Zhou Meng took over from his father's class at the Forestry Bureau, and there is little talk of him taking over in today's society. However, Zhou Meng's father was honorably injured in the operation to extinguish the mountain fire 7 years ago. In recognition of his heroic behavior, the organization made an exception and arranged for Zhou Meng to take over. Zhou Meng, with a proud height of 1.92 meters, a dark complexion and a strong physique, warmly extended his hand to greet the three of them one by one, welcoming their arrival. When shaking hands with Su Chunliang, I found out that he was not wearing a police uniform. According to Zhou Meng's understanding of life, generally speaking, those who were not wearing police uniforms were big leaders. I was a bit puzzled. This young man looks younger than me, just a leader. Su Chunliang discovered that Zhou Meng's palms were wide and sturdy, with calluses covering the palms and thick calluses covering the joints of his fists. The grip felt rough like old tree bark, indicating that he had a certain level of cultivation in external skills. Lu Qilio went to the stage where both sides introduced each other. They were here for business, not for friendship. Zhou Meng knew that their purpose was to point to the mountain and told them that the place where they were released was right up there. Is it far? Li Zhong asked. It's not too far, just a few steps away. They quickly learned the true meaning of what Zhou Meng had said about not being far away, and walked through the mountains and forests for nearly 40 minutes before finally approaching the release point deep in the forest. Li Zhong was so tired that he couldn't catch his breath, and Lu Qi was not much better than him. Zhou Meng was tall and had long legs, and his stride was very large. Moreover, his usual job was to shuttle and patrol in the mountains and forests, walking on such mountain roads like walking on a flat ground. Today, he deliberately slowed down his pace to take care of his police comrades. In just over 20 minutes, he arrived. The best performer among the three was actually Su Chunliang, who was never left behind by Zhou Meng from beginning to end. Zhou Meng looked at it in his eyes and secretly praised it. He really couldn't underestimate this white and pure young man. His physique is really good. Li Zhongshe couldn't hold on anymore, so he stopped in place and leaned over a crooked-neck tree, panting and saying, "Xiao Zhou. Take a break. Then walk." Zhou Meng stopped and turned around, saying, "We're just a few steps ahead." Li Zhongxin said, "I believe you, a ghost. Don't move." Zhou Meng suddenly shouted loudly. Lu Qi and Li Zhong were so frightened that they stood still. Su Chunliang had already seen a red and black red chain snake spitting out its message on the branch above Li Zhong's head, ready to depart. Zhou Meng took out a red sandalwood slingshot from his waist. The Y-shaped bow frame was covered with a thick layer of coating due to long-term use, which was shiny and glossy. He raised his hand and shot out a stone, but his rubber band only pulled halfway and his strength was just right. The stone broke free from the leather bag and shot out, hitting the head of the red chain snake, driving it away without causing it to be injured. Su Chunliang watched from the side, and Zhou Meng's slingshot had good accuracy. From pulling it out to shooting, it was done in one go. He didn't expect this tall man to have such good shooting skills, and the key is to control his strength. The red chain snake was panicked and fled, disappearing into the depths of the trees in an instant, leaving only a series of rustling sounds from near to far, which were soon hidden by the mountain wind. Lu Qi and Li Zhong breathed a sigh of relief at the same time, and Li Zhongxin felt a slight tremble as he said, "I almost died." Su Chunliang smiled and said, "This type of red chain snake has very weak toxicity and will not harm life." Zhou Meng looked at Su Chunliang with some surprise and said, "Leader, do you understand these things?" "I'm not a leader." Lu Qi walked over and said, "I forgot to introduce you. This is the snake expert we invited from Changxing Hospital. Zhou Meng showed great respect, and in his heart, experts clearly held a higher position than leaders. He only had a junior high school diploma, and he admired people with knowledge the most. The four of them arrived at the release point, and Zhou Meng pointed to the grass under his feet, saying that they were released here that day. He watched with his own eyes as two cucumber snakes swam from here into the deep forest. Lu Qi and Li Zhong checked around the release site, but they couldn't find any clues, let alone how many days had passed. Zhou Meng said curiously, "Are you looking for those two big snakes?" Lu Qi said, "Can you still find it?" Zhou Meng shook his head and said, "Although Qinglong Mountain is not high, the forest area is not small, and the 12 peaks of Qinglong are connected to each other. After so long, I don't know which mountain it has reached." Lu Qi was at a loss and looked at Su Chunliang for help. "Is it worth a trip today?" Su Chunliang said, "Rats have their own paths, snakes have their own paths. Two snakes are so big that there must be traces wherever they pass through." His eyes cast towards the dense forest ahead, and the snake's body naturally carries a fishy smell, which is different from the fishy smell and mixed with the smell of soil. The smell of snakes varies depending on their species. Originally, after so many days, the smell should have dissipated long ago. However, when the king snake passes through the grass, the smell will stick to the leaves, and usually this kind of smell will not dissipate for many days. Even if an ordinary person leans their nose against a blade of grass, they cannot smell this smell, but for Su Chunliang, who has a keen sense of smell, he can easily recognize this smell. The initial practice of the Tongtian Baodian was to enhance one's 5 senses. Although Su Chunliang's internal strength was greatly reduced, the scent of various snake and insect poisons had already been integrated into his memory. The body odor of Wang Jin snake was extremely strong, and his anal glands emitted a unique foul odor. The unique stench formed a winding road sign in front of Su Chunliang. Su Chunliang strode forward, and the three of them followed behind, so Zhou Meng naturally had no problem. Lu Qi and Li Zhong's physical strength could no longer keep up, and as police officers, they couldn't show any fear. They could only grit their teeth with perseverance to keep up. Although they tried their best, they were still thrown away more than 10 meters away. After walking in the dense forest for about 10 minutes, Su Chunliang stopped and sniffed, saying, "It's nearby." Zhou Meng imitated his appearance and forcefully sucked in his nose, smelling a foul smell that almost made him nauseous. Su Chunliang pointed to the right front, and Lu Qi used a bamboo pole to pick up the grass. However, he saw a large snake in front of him, with its skin peeled off, curled up there. It looked like it had died, and the body had decayed in many places. The nauseating odor was emanating from its body. Zhou Meng pinched his nose and said, "How did you die?" In fact, this phenomenon is not uncommon. Many animals, after being released into the mountains and forests, die in the wilderness because they cannot adapt to the wild environment. Various signs suggest that it should have been hunted. The skin of the snake was peeled off and taken away, leaving only its bloody body. Lu Qi put on a mask and gloves and went to the side of the snake that had been dead for many days. He flipped over its body and found that its abdomen had been cut open by a foot-long hole. Thinking of the 15 stolen phones, it seemed that it had been swallowed by the snake. After being released by the Forestry Bureau, someone waited here first. Li Zhong said, "Why use such cruel means to kill it? Just let it vomit out, okay?" He had seen in the animal world before that snakes can vomit out again if they can't eat anything. Lu Qidao said, "The packaging of the phone is square and square, so it shouldn't be able to be vomited out, so we can only use this method to take out the things." Su Chunliang said, "Open its mouth and take a look." Lu Qi pulled out a small knife and pried open the mouth of Wang Jinshi. Although wearing a mask, the stench almost didn't make him faint. Blue clothing fibers were found on the snake's fangs. Lu Qi inferred that the snake should have attacked someone, so he angered them and killed them. However, the person who could kill such a large Wang Jinshi was not an ordinary person. Su Chunliang said, "This snake should have been summoned here by someone. On the first day of the month, don't forget to collect monthly tickets. I haven't written for several months, and the basic drive is almost depleted." End of this chapter.